Hello, and welcome to the Game Informer Show. I am Andy McNamara, your host. This week on the show, let's introduce my first panel here. And this would be Ben Reeves.
Hello.
And Leo Bader.
Thank you.
And in the box would be Leo Stadden. Oh, sorry, Alyx. I'm so used to saying Leo.
We are one now.
Yeah.
It's so bad. I like literally, I just assume you're there. This is kind of throwing me off. But
If only.
Alex Stadnick
Yes, sir. Hello, everyone.
is in the box.
I've been calling him Leo for weeks. I don't know.
Yeah,
Am I not supposed to?
You call me
I
Ben
never
Hansen.
corrected it.
That's right.
we do try to keep things confused here. So welcome. How you guys doing?
Great.
Good. Yeah.
A great morning.
Thanksgiving week. I'm ready for some turkey.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Well, it would be when we release this, you will already be eating turkey. Think of it that way.
Oh my gosh.
I'm still full, frankly.
Yeah,
wish I
I
was
mean,
there.
do you want to take
Yeah.
a nap?
Later.
Is that all right? Yeah. I do.
Well, we'll try not to induce naps during this episode. So what we have on tap for this show, we're doing it pretty quick for this week, is that we have we're going to talk about Half-Life Alyx and VR and all the things that we know about the game, and then we're going to follow that up very quickly. You'll notice how quickly we're skipping to things to community emails, which we'll go through, and then we're going to do our third installment of our Game of the Year talks. With 3 new editors to talk about some games and just kind of go through how we're looking at Game of the Year and what games we think are candidates. And then finally, we have a special guest. The interview this week will be with Justin Leeper, who was a Game Informer employee for, gosh, I can't even remember, probably close to 10 years. I don't even really remember. But he was with us for a long time. He joined up when we started some stuff for Game Informer Online. He's moved on. He lives in Japan, and he's a actor. And he actually did performance capture for 2 of the characters in Death Stranding. And he worked with Kojima. He also did facial data for Bibi, the baby.
Oh.
So he's got a really interesting tale. I've talked to him some on the side, but I saved a lot of the conversation for hopefully for this interview, which Matt Cotto is going to join me for. We're going to talk to him about working with Kojima, about being directed by Kojima and those kind of performance. And he's done other things and worked on other games like in wrestling and things like that. So should be an interesting conversation.
Can you make him do the crying baby faces?
We can try.
Yeah.
Just do the thumbs up and then spin around and show us his butt.
Yeah.
That's what I want to
I
see.
mean,
Did they motion capture his spin in his
Yeah,
butt?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I kind of hope not. I think that's something someone maybe did. But he can maybe he can tell us about the process. We'll ask.
Yeah.
We'll ask.
He was in the room with Kojima, though.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, he just to give a little hint about some of the talk we'll have. He discussed about, some about just like it was really interesting to watch Kojima at work, and he thought he was very engaging, and he's got a lot of experience. I said he's done commercials and all kinds of crazy stuff. So like he's worked with a number of people and directors. So it's interesting to hear his perspective, and obviously Kojima's a legend in the game space for what he does and how he tells stories. So I think it'll be very enlightening and informative. So I'm really looking forward to that. And so I assume, even though I only have these 4 small segments, I'm still going to go long.
Somehow.
They'll be an hour each somehow.
Yeah, somehow. But I'm trying. And I brought up this morning in the morning meeting, hey, we could do this other segment. And everyone looked at me and they're like, let's just move on. It's a holiday week. Let's stop. And that's probably for the best. So we'll be back with super long, episode following week. We want to let you spend time with your family, maybe, let's say.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get to the Half-Life talk. Okay. So last Thursday, they announced Valve that they were working on Half-Life Alyx, which is a VR return for Half-Life. So it is a VR only game built up from the bottom specifically for VR by Valve. And they put out about a 2-minute trailer and a bunch of information. What was you guys' reaction to the announcement?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm kind of like sick of all these Half-Life games we're getting. I'm tired of them. So another one I got to
Another
play.
annualized franchise.
Yeah, come on. You're driving into the ground, people. I was actually really excited.
Yeah.
Maybe tempered a little by the VR-ness of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, this is the first VR game where I've been like, do I need to go buy a headset? Like, because I still don't have one. So I'm like, I really want to play this game. I might have to go buy a headset for it if I don't play it here. But, like, this is the first game that's tempted me into that. And I'm sure that's what they want.
Yes, I would assume.
I think it looks cool. Like, I'm excited for another Half-Life finally.
Me too. Valve made nothing but great games for a while, and then they stopped. And the games had great writing, but now like a lot of writers left and everything, so I was unsure even if they started making games again, would they be of the same quality? But I think the fact that the one joke in the trailer made me laugh was a really good sign.
It was good. And Eric Woolpaw is back on staff now, correct? I think I heard that.
Oh, is he?
That's what I heard. So
I think I've heard that as well.
It felt like an Eric Woolpaw joke. Like it just kind of had that sort of humor to it, which I agree.
Are we talking about it's unloaded?
It's unloaded,
Yeah.
then it goes off. Like, it was funny.
It was funny. It was very funny. So, yeah, you're right. It's been a long time. Just for perspective here, Half-Life 2, Episode 2, not even the original Half-Life, was in October of 2007. That's how long ago that was. And it had been a long time. I mean, it feels longer because they have done other games in that time, but it does feel long, especially because I think, we have a lot of love for Half-Life. I know I was certainly, taken aback by the world. I just love that world. Right, like I love the art style. I love everything about it. So it's easy for me to fall into that. And I was a big fan of Alyx when I was playing Half-Life 2 and that whole thing. So it was pretty amazing. So
are we bummed it's a prequel?
Here's what I wrote down. So we
It's
can
a
go
sequel to the first game.
is that it's set between the events of Half-Life and Half-Life 2. Alex Vance and her father Eli mount an early resistance to the Combine's brutal occupation of Earth. So it sets up some of the things that eventually leads to things like the gravity gun, I assume, because they make a lot of mentions about a vault. If we get this weapon, we can change the future. Like it points to a lot of things in that kind of the conversation that goes on during the trailer.
Yeah.
At least that's what it makes me think of. And you also see in the trailer, you see on her hands that it looks like she has gravity gloves.
Right.
She's grabbing and pulling things from people. She's actually solving some interesting looking kind of puzzles.
Yeah.
And also too, it also looks like the game wants you to do a lot of tactile stuff with your hands. Like I noticed you would clear a shelf, grab a shell, open the gun, put the shell in, close it, cock it, and then fire it. Right. So I'm assuming they're going to want you to do all those kind of actions, right? And there was a scene where there's things in the way as she's looking for people and they're moving them aside. I do wonder if navigation will be with analog. Do you know what I mean? It didn't look like there was teleporting as far as moving around goes.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere online that they were going to have multiple options for moving around where you could teleport or you could actually physically move if you're up for that.
Oh,
I know
okay.
that can make you sick, so they have options. So if you do get sick by just moving around with a thumbstick, you can teleport places.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like to me at least, it looks like I would want to move around just because the world looks so great.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I'm sure the gravity gloves, the gravity gloves, I'm sure are a way to sort of allow you to grab things without having to move around as much. So I assume it'll be kind of like you go a place and you stay in that place for a little bit and then you go to another place. So there's maybe, I'm just assuming, limiting your movement to some degree.
Yes, for sure. One of the things that I thought was interesting about this is that kind of leading up to this announcement was that a lot of the people that were from Campo Santo who had been purchased in April of 2018 after they announced In the Valley of Gods in 2017, which was supposed to come out in 2019, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but TikTok 2019 is coming to an end.
Any day now.
Wait, has anybody told Valve?
And a lot of people that worked on that game, Sean Vanneman, things like that, they used to have, I'm from Campo Santo, I'm working on In the Valley of Gods, and those are all gone from their Twitter handles. So I don't think it's been made clear that the game is shelved or whatever, but it seems like a lot of that team is working on this game. And obviously, since it's not going to make 2019, it's been pushed out. I know a lot of people that were big fans of Firewatch are concerned that the game has been maybe permanently shelved, or maybe it's going down the Half-Life path where it only takes 12 years to get to the next installment.
Yeah.
Man, I hope not.
I mean, we don't know anything about why that would happen, right? Why they would get moved over, but pure speculation. It's hard not to read it as they took people from that team because they needed this to get out more, right?
That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah. Which is worrying a little bit.
Maybe it's all hands on deck. Hey, let's get this out, and then after March, when Half-Life comes out, they can shift back to
hopefully.
I
Ideally.
assume there's a reason they picked up that game to begin with. They're they liked the game and wanted to put it out. I'm assuming Valve liked that game and wanted to put it out. So there's got to be a reason they bought them, right?
They had to be decently far in it too, right? To announce it in 17, and then now it's 2019 when it's supposed to come out.
That's not always for sure. I mean, you can have a lot of the tools and things done. And I mean, the other thing too,
Slices.
they could have come to Campo. I mean, I'm totally like speculation here, but they could have come to Campo Santo and said, look, we're working on Half-Life. Do you guys want to come join us and like work on Half-Life? And I have a feeling that for a lot of developers,
Oh,
a
I'm sure.
lot of
I'm
developers, if they were like, hey,
Yeah.
what if I told you I'd buy your company? We'll finish, shelve your game, but you get to work on Half-Life. Would you be interested in that? I think there's a lot of people that would jump at that opportunity.
Totally
If
possible.
that was the pitch going in, though, would they have had I'm working on In the Valley of Gods on their Twitter account for so long?
I mean, video game companies love misdirection. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
Valve especially loves that.
I mean, like they don't want. I mean, they don't want you to know. Though it is, I did notice a lot of reporters were out there saying, "Hey, I told you there was a VR Half-Life coming," and I think HTC made a mistake once where someone there was like, "Oh, they're making Half-Life," and everyone just kind of went like, "No, they're not," because we've all been programmed to believe the game is never coming out.
Yeah.
So I think this was part surprise, and also I think people knew it was coming, and a lot of people had talked about it coming, but no one wanted to believe it.
I still have hope in the Valley of Gods. Nerbacular Drop was bought by Portal at one point, and then that team morphed inside the company, and they put out Portal. So it was a different game, obviously. But I'm hoping, something that game looked cool. So maybe it'll go through the Valve filter and eventually come out.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I rewatched the trailer this morning, and I was like, that still looks pretty cool, right? Like I was still down, and I was still interested and excited for the game. So certainly, from my point of view, I'd like to see it. But I think that's one of the cool things is that, and I want to throw out something that's going to be the internet might get angry at me for, but like, let's give some credit to Epic Games, because I feel like them opening their store and putting some pressure has put, number one, I've seen Steam do a lot of updates to the Steam store and a lot of new things, and just, I don't know. I mean, this once again is pure speculation, but I feel like they've motivated Valve to get out there and get games and get things that are like motivating people to be on Steam.
Yeah,
And that's what's
you might
so
be right.
great about the free market.
Exactly.
Competition.
Competition.
No, honestly, them not having competition for so long let them be like way behind as far as UI and user experience in general. Although I do appreciate their refund policy, and I would love for Epic to rip that off.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that the Epic Store we all know needs to grow, right, and get more things. And there's lots of memes and jokes about it. But I mean, like it does. I mean, the Steam store was feeling old, right, and
Ancient.
and it's good that they're now see some motivation to put in more stuff, and I'm excited about that. So a little like controversial kudos to Epic Games on that. And then I think there's a couple other interesting points that I wanted to bring up. One is that the second I heard the trailer, I was like, I know who that is. And that was Murray from Flight of the Conchords.
Oh, yeah,
I heard
yeah.
speak, and I was like, I just instantly knew that because I loved that show.
Yeah.
Was all in it. And he announced on his Twitter that Rince Darby, that he was in it. And I was like super excited about that. He's kind of like, he's working with you in the Resistance. What his character name is, I couldn't find if it's out there. But I'm really excited about him. He's the one that made the funny joke. He's got a classic like Valve comedy joke voice. If that makes
Would
sense.
have fit into Portal 2 for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
100%.
Well, that's what they did for Portal. They were like, we love Stephen Merchant. We'll just see if we can get him for our game. And they reached out to him and like, yeah, sure. I'm sure that's what happened here.
And it's one of the
Yeah.
most
They're like,
memorable
we just love
characters
this
ever.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about him being in this game. And then the other thing that I think is a little bit of a bummer on a couple of is that there's a new Alyx. So it was Merle Dandridge. Now it'll be played by Ozioma Akaga?
Nailed it.
She was in Runaways and worked on Wolfenstein 2 and Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Sorry for the name murdering there. I'm sorry. I'm bad at that. And then, of course, the original Eli Vance passed in 2017.
Oh, the actress did?
The actor. This would be Eli.
Dad.
Merle's still around. But Robert Goulamé. So he's replaced by James Moses Black, who will take on that role, which is certainly, I'm a big fan of Eli. And, I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you remember, the end scene in episode 2, this is one of the things that's bugged me about episode 2 taking so long. Like, I loved that final battle. It felt epic. I felt like the story was really ramping up. I was so invested in Eli and Alyx and the whole thing. And it just feels like the craziest cliffhanger forever. Yeah. And so I'm excited about this, but I am also like, I don't need more things to get me excited about like continuing the series. And Valve has gone out there some and said like, so are you going to work on Half-Life 3? And they're like, I don't know, if people react well to this, which I'm like, oh, you're doing this. Like you're like that they're like kind of forcing us to want to or buy or invest in this to make sure that Half-Life 3 happens.
Yeah.
Now,
because we haven't given Valve enough money over the years. Like, hey,
maybe they could
show us some love,
together.
guys. Yeah.
which I found a little annoying, but it might be a little bit of misdirection. They may already be working on Half-Life 3. But I know a lot of people, if they announced a Half-Life 3 and it was VR only again.
Yeah.
What do you think of the possibilities of that?
I don't think it's possible personally. I think the reason they're doing this is to help sell VR with a Half-Life game, but they wouldn't do that with Half-Life 3.
You don't think so?
I think that's
Personally.
the reason this is those side stories, quote unquote, is that they're like, hey, we want to do something with Half-Life in VR. Should it be 3? No, people hate that, so we'll do this side story. It feels like the best of both worlds. Like they can do a VR game and it be Half-Life, but people won't be offended that it's 3.
They have to know the pushback they would get if they made Half-Life 3.
I think I agree.
$1,000 border to entry at least.
Now, that said, I think I could see a world where in a few years, maybe they put out a Half-Life 3 and it has some VR capability, but it's also a game you can just play without a VR headset.
Yeah.
So this game is built in Source 2, and it supports, just to your point, that it supports the Valve Index, the HTC Vive, Windows Mixed Reality, Oculus Rift, and Oculus Quest with a PC cable, or a PC and a link cable, which is a new thing that they added.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
So basically, there's right now, I think you can get like a pretty cheap cable, but it's only like 3 feet long that will work. And actually, the USB 3.0 cable that comes with your Oculus Quest does not work, which is because why would it, right? But they didn't know this was going to happen. But basically, they've added this ability to play Rift games through your Quest using this cable. So it does tether you a bit, and you have to have a PC, I'm sure, with some kind of standards. I haven't tested this out myself, but that is a way this game can be played.
That's cool.
That is cool. So it doesn't have to be $1,000 as a way to get entry, but you do have to have a headset of some kind, and of course inputs, whether they're click or other things.
And a pretty powerful computer. They have the minimum recommended specs on the Steam store page for Half-Life Alyx now, and they're pretty steep. My VR friend, who's very smart, says they're not that steep for what they're going for as far as graphical fidelity and size of world and everything, but still, it's like a 1050, 12 gigabytes of RAM. Like, I'm barely hitting it, personally.
Yeah, and it feels like the trailers, like, at least, to like, everything when I view it on, like, as a trailer on YouTube, like, feels so crisp. And when I view things in VR, and I'm not, like, dissing on VR, but it feels a lot less, like, the resolution feels much different, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that'll be interesting to see how that kind of changes over as you get between the two things. But one of the interesting things about Source 2 is that they're saying that it's a whole new set of tools, and that they'll support the community creating content within the world and things like that. So that's kind of interesting, just to see like what other people can do. I mean, obviously they can't. They're not going to build a whole new game necessarily on it, but Valve's been pretty supportive of letting the community build and create new things that are available. So that's kind of exciting as far as like just getting more stuff in the Half-Life world. And I know there's fans out there that will be like, I'm going to build things immediately. Oh yeah. Which could be kind of fun, especially if someone really did a great redo of Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2 like in VR.
That'd be cool. Talk to the Black Mesa folks and
see
if they can crank that out. They've been working on that remake for like 10 years or whatever. But
So I think the final question I have then is, do you think this is like a big moment in VR? Is this going to change VR? Is it going to change the current, like, I think people like VR, like me, like, you know what I mean? Like, I like VR. I think it's cool. I think it has a way it needs to grow, right? And I think there is an end game that involves VR and AR, and I think they're a very important part of the game ecosystem. And that's by the way, that's a period for me. I don't think I make that statement with a question mark. Mm-hmm. It's just like, is it in 6 months? Is it in a year? Is it 5 years? Is it 7 years? You know what I mean? That's the part where the question mark comes up for me. You know what I mean? I think there's definitely more breakthroughs we need to make as a technology to get there. But this game would be on the timeline, right? I mean, like if you were like important moments in VR, this is on there, right?
Big known franchise, a lot of hype around it.
Yeah. I think VR definitely needs more games like this. And so I'm glad that we have this. I am slightly disappointed that it does feel like you need to invest a bit, like in a nice PC to be able to play it. You need to be connected to the PC. Me and Leo, especially Leo, have been messing around with the Quest a lot recently.
Yeah.
And like I love that thing because you're not tethered to a PC anymore. I think that's kind of a big step for VR, and we need more products that go to stuff like the Quest, so you don't have to be tethered to a PC, I think, to really make it catch on.
That's the thing, is that device feels like the future. Like
Yeah.
you
It
put it
does,
on,
yeah.
you trace a circle around you, and you're playing in 2 seconds, and
Yeah.
you have no wires holding you down or anything. And obviously, a game of this scale just won't run on anything like that for the next few years, at least.
Which is disappointing.
That's the problem, right? We
Yeah.
want that kind of freedom and it all built in the headset, but we want full-length 15 to 20-hour games, and those are not on the same level right now,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people would have to invest in making those type of experiences for the headsets like the Quest.
Yeah.
And Valve's not going to do that because, that's not where they're headed. They like their system tied to the PC.
Yeah, and I also think too, you it's kind of weird that you'd have a headset that only like has a battery life of like 3 hours.
Oh,
you
yeah.
have a 15-hour game. Do you know what I mean? You can plug it in. You can
tech
plug it in
needs
and
to
use it, by the
advance,
way.
but yeah.
But that is one of those things that's there. So it's an interesting moment, I think, in VR, and I'm really excited. It's kind of crazy that it's March 2020, so it's not
Yeah,
that
it's close.
far away.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be, and I laughed for the second I saw the announcement. I'm like, there's going to be a weird traffic jam at the Game Informer office when we get that game of like, hey, is anybody going to be using the VR machine tonight? Of people like trying to play the game.
It's a line out the door. Yeah.
Especially because it's longer, that someone will be like, I've got it for the week. Kind of thing as we kind of battle to get our chance to play it. But I am excited. I am excited to see it.
I hope
where
it's
it goes.
amazing. Yeah.
It's that in Final Fantasy? Is that still March?
Oh, is it?
I thought it was early on, or was it February?
Yeah, it's still March.
Yeah, it's March, and then
That's not a
least-
VR game.
No. I was just
Yeah.
saying like the early March window.
Yeah, there's
not
some
that
good
there's
games.
like
Crossing.
there's a lot of good games.
Yeah, there are a lot
Right
of good
now.
games. There are a lot of good games. There's a lot of exciting things coming down. Do you guys have anything else? I mean, do you want to say about your excitement for Half-Life?
I just want to say Oculus Quest is amazing. We have one in the office, and I've been playing with it every night the last couple weeks. I've been having so much fun with that device.
Yeah.
Pistol Whip, very
Pistol
fun.
Whip's really good.
Beat Super Hot VR, worth playing
Oh,
even
you
if you
beat
played
it?
the original. Yeah.
Yeah, I played
It's
the first
different
like
in VR.
8 levels, and I really liked it. I think I like it more than the original Super Hot.
Yeah, it's great.
That's cool.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Quest, which I got one a while back, earlier but I'd say summer. I played a lot of Beat Saber, which is such
Yeah.
a great game.
Yeah, that was
I did
great.
play Vader Immortal, which they had another episode come out, and actually I got one of the emails we received this week was someone asking about, had we played it, and I had not played episode 3. I'm kind of behind on my VR games at the moment, which is unfortunate. But it is a lot of fun, and it's really great how just usable it is. I mean,
It's
that's
so
the thing.
convenient. VR's never been that convenient for sure. Pistol Whip definitely recommended. Really fun. It's got some nice aim assist. For anybody who doesn't know, it's a rhythm game like Beat Saber, except you're shooting instead of slicing. So you can shoot on rhythm and you'll get extra points, or just shoot and stay alive and dodging bullets and everything. It's very satisfying, and the aim assist makes you feel just like a god. Reef played it, said it was like a John Wick game.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like I feel like John Wick when I'm playing it because you're like strolling, down an alley and there's guys popping up all over the place and you just from the hip shooting your gun and it always feels so accurate and you just feel super cool doing it.
Once you get the hang of it, you're just shooting people you're not even looking at. Just behind you. It feels
just
great.
left, right, reload. You just need to add a roll in every now and then.
Yeah.
You'll feel like John Wick.
Yeah, I do a lot of backflips to dodge bullets in the office.
I did notice that multiple times I walked past you guys playing, and I was like, "Those guys are working." Like that, the game.
Oh my God.
You guys are like dodging and weaving and sweating, and like it looks like you had like maybe 40 pizzas in 30 days. I mean, like it was crazy.
Yeah, I pulled every muscle in my thighs the first night I played it for half an hour, and the whole next week I was recovering and having trouble going upstairs, but then I still had to play it every night, so my thighs never healed.
Yeah, I remember you're like, oh, I can't stand right now. And then you're like
So bad.
you're putting on the headset. I can't stand. I'm like, what are you doing to yourself, dude?
That's actually why I got hired, to carry him up the stairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's weird. Well, that's awesome. Thank you guys. And hopefully, we'll admit this is going to be hopefully a big moment for VR, even though I know I mean, I know a lot of people wanted it to be a non-VR game. There's certainly that is a very real thing, and I'm excited to play the game. But I definitely would think to myself, if I was like, I have to invest $300, I have to invest $400, I have to invest $500, I have to invest $1,000 to play this game. That's certainly that's a tough choice.
Tough.
I mean, especially you're like, it's Half-Life, $1,000, Half-Life, $1,000, Half-Life, $500. I mean, it's
I don't know if we did mention, like, if you did buy Valve's $1,000 headset, you do get the game for free. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Wow.
So
Wow.
$15.
Wow, what a
do you
bargain.
know? Yeah.
Wow.
So if you look at it like that,
If you look at it like that, it's almost it's free.
Yeah.
It's free.
it's free.
Last thing I want to say is, even though not a lot of people will be able to play this game proportionally, as a big release, I think it'll put a lot of eyes on VR, and people will be watching a lot of streams about this game, a lot of videos about it, and people will be at least thinking about VR, even if they're not buying it just for one game.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that happen.
I agree. Well, thank you both for coming on and talking some Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah.
So we got more to come. Community emails, Game of the Year, Justin Leeper, actor, Death Stranding, excitement,
Baby.
excitement.
Beat poetry now? What are we doing?
Maybe.
All right.
Do you think I have a future?
Hey.
We'll be
man.
back. Hello, and welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I am Andy McNamara, your host. I am joined by a panel of amazing people, including Matt Miller,
Greetings.
Ben Reeves,
Hello.
Leo Vader,
Hello.
and in the box, Alex Stadnick.
Not Leo Stadnick anymore.
I almost did it again, just to be funny, but I was like, let's not continue to screw this. I screwed that up earlier.
Yeah.
I know you may have missed that, but I'm used. Everyone should be excited. Leo is out of the box. He's
Here he
here at
is.
the table. We're doing that for the entire episode.
Getting the
Cheers,
fresh
yes.
air.
It's great to have you.
Are you thinking right now?
So.
Am I thinking?
Outside of the box?
Oh. Bum bum ba-dum.
Wah, wah.
Well, if you're still with us,
This is the kind of hot comedy you can expect today
That's
from
like-
the Game Informer crew.
Nobody's going to click off from that. They're going to go click dislike, continue watching the video.
Ah, okay.
That's what I think is
Yeah,
happening.
That's the threshold.
Resubscribe multiple times.
make a comment about our comedy, which, I guess it's worth saying. So please be nice. Please be nice.
He's doing his best.
So just a quick reminder, we still have the Game of the Year Part 3 chat to go, which has been a lot of fun the last 2 episodes. If you've missed it, please go back and give it a listen. They're really fun. They're really interesting. I've enjoyed them a lot. I've tried some of the games, in particular ones that Leo had recommended. He had some different recommendations last week that I had not played, which was fun to go try out. And so hopefully you too are enjoying the Game of the Year chats as well. And then finally, we are going to have a discussion with Justin Leeper, who did performance capture for Death Stranding, and he's an old GI crew. He's fam. So it's going to be nice to have him from Tokyo, live from Tokyo. Should be kind of cool. And
Sweet.
I don't even know if he's in Tokyo. Let's just say Japan.
Yeah, he's somewhere over there.
He's in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we are going to do community emails, feedback, comments, things like that. Please, if you have not, send us your questions to feedback. No, podcast.
Podcast.
That's a whole different thing.
Podcast. Feedback is actually the magazine, but podcast at GameInformer.com. I'd also like to say, this week in the email, I looked through it. I read them all. Thank you so much for your feedback. There were a lot of comments, which I loved, and I actually really enjoy reading all the kind of interactions people giving us. They were like, you were wrong about Mount Rushmore. You were wrong about best weapons. And I actually really love it. They're giving me their own lists, and they're really fun. And I probably should read more of them, but I didn't prepare it like that. But I really love the feedback. But what I didn't get enough of, and I'd like you to get more of, is ask us questions. Reinforcing those things that we already discussed. I'd like to make sure I have some things to choose from that are deep, thoughtful conversations. So please remember, love the feedback, but include a question, something that we can help you out with, or something we can discuss, or something
Chat
that might
about.
interest you.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe a minor news thing we missed.
yeah, anything like that. I mean, I think that's I'd love to have more of that. So please heed the call. Save us.
The Game Informer Show.
Yes, the Game Informer
Heed
Show.
the call.
I did want to mention I did love. So one person commented on last week we talked about a new name for Xbox, and I knew him a little bit backtracking here, and we went through that. But one of the ones that someone wrote back, and they said it should be called Xbox Home. Kind of obvious. I kind of liked that one. I just wanted to mention that because I was like, I like that. I like that comment. I don't know who did it, but I love that one. I was like, yeah, that's a good one.
Xbox Echo.
Xbox Echo.
Xbox Alexa.
Yeah, I'm sure Amazon would be fine with
That'll
that.
be good.
I mean, all those companies just get along, right? They're just friends.
I thought
It
they were
is-
the same company.
Yeah,
at this
I was
point.
going to say, I thought it was just one company at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's 2 years away.
Yeah, and there's also the thing that maybe they called it, what's it, the voice that they're using from Halo. Cortana. Yeah, thank you.
I talk to her every day.
Because I feel like everyone wants to have that voice interaction and get that in everybody's homes, right?
Yeah.
That seems like the new thing as companies is to listen in on all our conversations, right?
Yeah, surveillance state.
Yeah, surveillance state. So
That's why they named her Cortana, is because she's a friend. You trust her.
You trust her, yeah.
To listen to you.
What's not okay about Cortana? I mean, she's always there for you, saving you from the Covenant,
Yeah, we built up
spying
a
for the
rapport.
government.
Yeah.
And one final note, or two final notes, actually. So someone asked, am I doing the email of the week? I am not. I don't do the email of the week. I've kind of changed the emails in the community talk. And someone had just asked if we were doing less questions. And the answer is yes, I'm doing less questions, partly because you're not sending me as many.
Because there's no email of the week.
Now we're
Yeah.
guilting them.
Well, I mean, we go a little bit. A little bit. Let's say I'm reinforcing the message. Let's go with that.
Yeah, but we also are like talking about things for a little longer.
We're talking about, it's a little bit more
kind of
depth.
going in deep.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
I've been going with it. I think if I got a lot of great questions, wink, wink, I might do more questions.
Sure.
How about that?
Yeah.
But that is a challenge. Because God knows I want to make this podcast longer.
If only.
So I did get one last question kind of at the end as I walked away, and it was from Adam. And it was just like, do you guys ever wait for patches before you play games? Because we talked some last week about how bugs sometimes like ruin an experience or like just basically like, I don't want to play this game anymore. I don't want to redo the intro. Or in some cases, like your save completely goes away and you need to redo 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a game come in that you'd heard was buggy that you were like, I'm gonna wait a month. I'm gonna wait this out.
I mean, I love when I can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, actually.
I don't think one of the interesting dynamics of the work that we do is that we often can't.
Yeah.
Right. One of my preferred ways to play a game that I'm excited about now is to actually really wait.
Yeah.
And like let them have the time they need to kind of sort it all out, because there's so many times that we're playing something that's like in that final patch, like day one patch version.
Yeah.
And we're always kind of juggling in the back of our mind. Okay, they've said they're going to fix these animations and this one scene that doesn't have the background in it in this preview build, that's going to be fixed, and so it's kind of nice for me personally to be able to just wait and see what the developer really intended.
Yeah, it is weird when you're playing a game and you have to like pick up a sheet of paper and read through all the known issues and go,
Yes.
is this issue on here?
Right. Well, and
Yeah.
I also like it when they, they're in trouble when they keep things real vague.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, there are some animation bugs throughout.
Please don't judge any animations
Yes.
in this game.
They're supposed to be perfect.
Inevitably, they will be perfect.
There's
of
also a
course.
story
in the next
bug.
4 days. We're gonna fix all the animation bugs.
There's a gameplay bug.
And to be fair, and that was the point of Adam's letter, was that like, no game is going to be perfect,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's going to be, games are a crazy technology meets art, like kind of like ridiculous piece of work at the end of the day. And like to expect perfection is a lot to ask, right? And I think that's what we're looking for. But I hadn't really thought about that, and that does bring in the question: how about you guys? You guys ever waited for a patch for a game?
Well, what I was going to say is like, you're right in that nothing's ever perfect, but sometimes there's like one little thing that bothers you, and you're like, man, I hope they fix this thing. I'm actually kind of waiting for something like that with Outer Worlds, which I've been playing, and I kind of put to the side for other things, and I hope when I get back to it that they increase the font size, which I think is something they have talked about.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's out yet, but that's one thing where I'm like, oh, okay, it'll be nice to go back to that game, and they'll have like hopefully patched that out, because the font size in that thing was very small, and I have a big TV, but I don't know, I feel like I need glasses or something, magnifying glasses, just to read the text in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish we had that luxury sometimes for sure. What comes to mind is when we played Red Dead Redemption 2. It was kind of a rush for everybody to finish that before the holidays and be able to talk about the story completely. And there was a character in the epilogue who, there was a bug for the first month and a half the game was out, where he was just rail thin right above his waist. He looked like
weird.
Gumby or something. It was very distracting. And I wish I could have taken my time more, and it probably would have been fixed by the time I got there. But
Yeah.
we just have to be on point.
Yeah, I mean, I will admit, I don't review as many games as I once did, as people know. But I mean, I did find it's a dream job to be able to review games. I'm not arguing that, but there's definitely a time when you're like, sometimes it's great when you're like, you know what? It's a real shame I don't get to review that game, but I get to play this game at home the way I want.
I am completely in your camp.
Yeah.
I always it was a few years into my career before I realized you know what? If I'm not assigned on this review for this game I'm desperately excited about, that's just fine.
Yeah.
Because I can just enjoy it and not have in the back of my head having to think about scores and
Or
take
even
notes
rush through
or
it.
rush through.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
It is much more enjoyable to just I'm done with work. I'm going to sit down. I'm just going to play this new whatever.
There's also that weird trick sometimes where, speaking to this email, where you'll hit something in a pre-review or a review game that you're playing pre-release,
Yeah.
and you hit something, you're like, am I being stupid or did I hit
Yeah.
a bug?
Yeah.
Like, is there something here
Yep.
that my game
You
is
never
broken?
know for sure.
And you never know for sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes it has been a bug, and that sucks. And you're like firing off an email to a PR person. You're like, hey, is this supposed to work this way?
Yeah, I've killed this boss 3 times and the game never progresses past that.
Yeah,
What's
it's like-
the
Oh, no, you got to do it with this ring equipped or
Yeah,
something stupid.
yeah.
But
Yeah, it can be embarrassing, and especially when they come back and they go like, "Yeah, you hit A."
yeah.
Oh, A.
That's
Hey,
why it said
thanks.
A.
That's why I'm stuck in the
never
first line
mind.
of dialogue in the game.
I'm a professional, really. Thank you. Yeah, it can get a little tough. But I think you bring up a great point too and just to kind of go off topic here a little bit. I see font size as the number one complaint I see about current games. I think across the board, like as far as a lot of people with various amounts of TVs, and especially too as we look at a world like maybe where we're going to stream more, and you're going to go from a big screen to a small screen, or even games that are on a Switch that you're carrying, or you're broadcasting to your TV. I think having control over that font size and the various elements of your UI is probably a big thing. I think going
it's
forward.
annoying.
It is really annoying.
I remember it was a big there was a big uprising when the first Dead Rising came out.
Yeah, I was just
That
thinking
was
that.
around the time when HD TVs weren't all across the board. Not everybody had one. I remember I started that game on a CRT, and I had
couldn't
trouble.
read it at
you
all.
can't read
Yeah.
the text.
Yeah.
And I thought after that, stink that everybody made about that game, we wouldn't have to worry about this anymore.
Yeah.
That people would just think about oh, font size, this should be bigger. But
Yeah.
no, we still run into that issue. I don't know why
We
that's
do.
My guess for why that happens, having visited a lot of developers, is that I think that frequently developers are spending a lot of time looking at their game in the highest possible resolution that they can, because they're also testing it on those sort of high-end machines to make sure that there's not stuttering and problems like that. And so I think sometimes they just don't ever, it doesn't occur, right?
Yeah.
A significant chunk of your user base is not going to have that experience. They're going to...
It happens with sound too. Sometimes you'll run into a thing where the sound mix feels off, the dialogue's too low or something. And I think it's because they're playing it with 5.1 surround sounds or really nice headsets. And
Yep.
I don't think they're playing it with oh, how's this going to sound on a stereo speaker?
Yeah.
Like a dumb TV.
Yeah, I actually really like it when I have a game has the voice channel and everything like that I can pick out and kind of do that. And on some, I'm talking expensive AAA games. I'm well, I can't hear the voices. I'm going to just change. Really, you just have one master volume.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
hate
You
that.
know,
Voices are under sound effects.
And
Yeah.
I also it speaks to a thing that I don't really love, which is this implication that we know best.
Oh,
we
yeah,
know
yeah,
the
yeah,
way
yeah,
that it
yeah.
should sound and your consumer actually has preferences. Sometimes they don't want in your car game to have the sound of the engine that loud,
Yeah.
right? You as the developer might want that, and you think that's what's really cool about your game, but some of your users don't, and you should give them the flexibility to get rid of that.
I've always said about games, it's interactive entertainment. Let's take advantage of the interactive, right, and give people options and let them make their own choices. Now, I think there's a couple important points here. One is that making games is hard, and I get it. Like maybe you're getting towards the end and you're like, we got to get the options in, and like you're running to get those things in. But I think if the more we can get to standardize in that set is great. And also, I'd like to point out for anyone that has other issues and other challenges as far as like, color blindness or other accessibility issues, like imagine we're complaining that the voices aren't loud, you know what I mean? And like I think about other things as far as like standards that we need to have so everyone can play and everyone can get through those things are also really, really important when we talk about those options. Not just font size is important as well, but like even I was playing Star Wars, and there's a lot of as you get later in the game, there's a lot of like bash this button or bash this button, and I always think to myself, there's someone who just throws the controller in and says,
like,
I'm not,
I can't play this
I can't
game
do
anymore.
this.
Yeah.
Also,
done.
I've never gotten to one of those points and been like, oh, I'm glad I had to mash that button for. Like it never adds anything to the experience for me personally.
No.
And I can do them. So it's like, what's the point?
Well, and I think I've seen a couple games. I wish I could think of an example that did it. But there are some that have accessibility options where
think God of
you
War
just
did.
hold.
Red Dead 2 has that also.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think is really nice. To say that, like, okay, well, we think the preferred way to handle that is like we like the intensity of you got to tap the button really fast. But if that's not an option for you, that's fine. You can still play our game.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying, and I agree. But also intensity for mashing a button. I agree with Reeves a little bit. That's
I'm
kind
sure
of an
that's
overstatement.
but that's why they do it, right? They think that that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
You're holding on for dear life.
Yeah,
or
I
whatever.
am Kratos right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm moving my thumb up and down.
I will admit, maybe the first time I had to encounter one of those, I was like, this is cool. But I definitely sigh and roll my eyes whenever I have it now. In Star
waiting for
Wars,
it to be
it was
done.
like someone came out with a lightsaber. I had to like lock sabers with it. I'm like, I bet I know what I have to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yay!
Mash.
It seems something that should go
It's a little
away.
old-fashioned,
Yeah, it definitely does. Well, we haven't officially done a question yet.
Well, I think you asked us a question.
That was
I
a
did.
question.
It was a question. I was kind of add-on. It wasn't
I
even one of
think-
the ones I'd printed off yet.
Panel, do we vote that was a question?
I think
Okay.
I think it's a
that
question.
qualifies.
That's
think
email
so.
of the week.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam.
Get ready for something special.
All right. So the first question we have here is from James. I don't know where James is from, but wherever you are, James, appreciate it. Another simple question for you. What was the most devastating video game cancellation of all time, in your opinion? Star Wars 1313, Scalebound, StarCraft, Ghost. Keep up the great work. We got great work.
Oh,
Thanks.
And
Aw,
we
nice.
have to pick from those three.
No,
those are the only 3 games that were canceled.
Yeah, I think those are the only 3 canceled games.
I think there's one is like the all-time, which I think it depends on who you ask, certainly. But I think there's a lot of games that have been canceled over the years that we would maybe not say it's all-time, but we lament
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
it's
for
gone,
sure.
right? Or didn't happen.
Yeah.
And there's certainly, I think you could go with how many like sequels or like trilogies type entries that we never got, like Mega Man Legends, I think is one that's talked about that it never got that installment.
Yeah.
Was that ever made? Was that ever canceled? Like those are ones that I think I miss those more than something like Scalebound, which I don't really have any kind of relationship with.
Yeah,
You know what I
Condemned
mean?
3 having such a direct cliffhanger ending and Condemned 2, and then just did they even try to make Condemned 3? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a
I
great
don't know.
point. I mean, like we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know, and I think there's a thing too where like I think Blizzard has said it, and some other companies said like you don't even know how many games
yeah.
are canceled, right?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we never hear about, and there's that's just the way that it is.
Blizzard's
There's a lot of prototyping that happens.
yeah, there is.
They probably canceled more games than they've made.
I
I
think
wouldn't be
I bet
surprised.
definitely.
honestly, yeah.
Absolutely.
They canceled more games this year than they've made in their entire existence.
To answer his question, like he mentioned Star Wars 1313, but I'm actually probably more disappointed that the Amy Hennig Star Wars game
Yeah.
got
good
canceled.
point.
I think
Yeah,
that was going to be
fully
my
agree.
answer.
Yep.
Which I'm a big fan of Amy, and like I've loved what she did with Uncharted, and even like the Soul Reaver games before that. Like I really like her narrative approach to games, and I was very excited to see that come over to Star Wars, and very disappointed that EA wasn't interested in investing in that, which is sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it's the tandem of that and 1313 because they were these two projects that ostensibly had some promise to them as single player Star Wars experiences during a period in that franchise's history that I don't know, felt like, I mean, we used to talk about like, man, we're in the midst of this like sequel trilogy that we've, as Star Wars fans, have waited our entire lives for.
Mm-hmm.
And there were just very, very few Star Wars games to enjoy that world in the midst of that time, with the exception of some multiplayer stuff that wasn't the right fit for everybody. And so those two cancellations coming on the heels of each other were painful.
Yeah, especially because I don't remember exactly, but with Amy's game, I felt like she was trying to like follow more of the story of like the rogue, kind of like Han Solo, like not a
That was the
Jedi.
sense, yeah.
And I liked the idea, at least in my mind, of I've seen guys with lightsabers kill. By the way, I like
You like lightsabers?
I like
getcha.
lightsabers. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. I'm not
Hey, this
saying.
I don't think he likes lightsabers.
But I
Did
do
you
like
hear what Andy said on the podcast about lightsabers?
I do like the idea of just other games in the Star Wars universe that explore that world through a different lens.
Part of
let's
what
say.
made KOTOR so great.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and like Mandalorian right now, I was talking about this with Jeff Cork, and we were like, it almost feels like a video, like it's the perfect video game setup. You know,
Yeah.
he like levels up even with his armor.
Right.
He has missions. He can go out and like catch these bounties. Like it's the perfect setup for a video game, and there's no lightsabers to be
Yeah.
seen. But it's the cool Star Wars universe that I would love to explore.
Yeah, I think that shows all the opportunities there. So I think we're always disappointed whenever a Star Wars game doesn't happen, because I think everyone here is generally a Star Wars fan, right? Leo, you're a Star Wars fan, right?
Some of it.
Some of it? Ooh, what's some of it? Tell us more.
I like New Hope. I like
Okay.
Empire Strikes
take.
Back.
Those are Star Wars.
I
So-
like
so you-
Return of the Jedi.
You think everything beyond that's just garbage?
No, I like Last Jedi.
Okay.
And Force Awakens is okay.
What about Rogue One? Do you like Rogue One?
I liked it fine.
Let's just go
Never
down the
want to
list.
see it again. Yeah.
I just kind of wonder. I mean, like, you know.
It's the type of thing where it's like, it's such a big franchise, and then like I like 40% of it, you know? Do I
Yeah.
really say I like Star Wars? You know? I don't know.
I mean, I think you've got a good perspective. I mean, you know, I'm born in Star Wars, right? You know
Right.
what I mean? I was a kid, 1977. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You know what I mean? Like, it blew my mind because I'd never
Except
seen
for the
anything like it.
lightsabers, which you hated.
Yeah, which I hated. But you know, I mean, I think for anyone later, it's a different story, right? Like, you know, I know certainly for members of my family that I argue with, they'll be like, Harry Potter's the greatest thing ever, and I'm like, oh
Sure.
my god, we're gonna go down this path, right? You know, but I respect that.
I like Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer.
Oh,
You
yeah,
like
that's
that
good.
game
Yeah.
specifically?
I actually
game.
really like the pod racer games. I'm
Yeah.
with
They're
you.
fun.
They're fun. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, I have a weird thing. I actually never liked Star Wars 1313. I went to that E3 demo where they had like steam shooting out of the walls
Sure.
and the like fake
Yeah, I remember that
elevator.
Yeah, I mean,
And then-
like that game, by the way, did exist in that format. Like we saw
yeah.
it.
Yeah, we saw a trailer
It wasn't
for
like-
it, but I was like,
Wow.
I wasn't.
That's it. I mean, the gunplay looked a little rough.
I mean, it was very, very Uncharted.
Very.
Except Uncharted is good.
Yes.
You know, and I just didn't. Everything I saw on 1330, I did not think it looked good. I walked out of that room going like, that looks bad. I would not have shown that,
Which may be why it was canceled.
which may be why it was canceled.
Because you said that. So we can all
Or,
blame you.
or a number of people
Yeah.
may have
Yeah.
said that, like, this is not looking as great as it could be.
Like I said, that's
Right.
an unpopular opinion. I get it, but I wasn't crazy about it. Any other what game are you sad that was canceled?
For me, Prey 2. You
Oh,
guys
yeah.
remember that
Yeah.
trailer? We never saw more than that trailer, really.
No.
2011?
It's a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah. It was a totally different story from Prey 1. You were kind of a space bounty hunter. The trailer started with you being on this passenger plane and aliens attacking it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's this bounty hunter chasing down this bounty. He's got like this grenade that shot people into the air and put them in slow motion hovering there. And then he shot them out of the sky. And it
It
was
was a
like
weird
no
looking
gameplay
game.
at all, but it
Yeah.
looked really interesting.
Yeah.
They pitched this on that game for the cover.
Really?
Yeah, they came by the office and showed us that game.
What did you think of it?
I didn't put it on the cover,
Right.
if that's a hint.
How much did they show you?
I think it was a pretty long demo. Did you sit in on that demo?
I didn't sit in on the demo, but I remember the conversations, and it felt like it was the combination of like the first Prey was, had some fans.
It
but
did.
wasn't
It did
the
something. It
strongest
did a lot of things
franchise.
right, but it
Yeah.
had some things that it did wrong. I
Yeah.
think I was. By the way,
We didn't hate on it.
Yeah,
I remember that much.
The decision was not made because we didn't think Prey deserved a
Yeah.
sequel, right? That is
Yeah.
definitely not where we stood. I think it was more like this is a big change in direction. The kind of bounty hunter points that you brought up. It's just an execution. I felt like it needed to, which I think is a fair response we have to companies sometimes. You're like, this looks cool. I'd like to see it in the, a little bit later after it's been in the oven a little bit longer, right? You know what I mean? Just as it develops more. I mean,
Yep.
it just depends on what we see and at what point we see it.
I mean, we've had that happen before, I think, right? Like where we might see a game at one point in development where they're like, "Hey, cover," and we're like, "Not
yet.
not yet."
Yeah, I mean,
But,
like,
like-
there's interest, but we'd like to see these questions answered.
And then they'll answer it, and they come back, and they're like, "Oh wow, this is really looking great," and
I
then we
mean-
move forward.
I would say this, and I don't think anyone would feel like I'm revealing anything. They showed. I talked a lot to the control team. I was really excited about Remedy, and even at E3, and they showed us the demo. I was like, some of the like telekinesis stuff's like the game is called Control. I don't want you to get the like with the game name like that. It needs to be like right on with the Control. And at that point, it didn't feel like right on to me. And I was like, I'm cool. I want to do this. I love what you guys are doing, but I want to see, or hopefully you can show at some point we can reconvene and like the controls will be a little bit tighter, and then I'll feel better about it as a choice. And we worked with them along with those lines and those goals. And when they did, it was like, this is awesome. I mean, I like the second I think that stuff clicked for me, and like I've said before, for me right now, it's still probably my game of the year. I mean, I know it's a probably in there, but I really, really enjoyed the game. But when I saw it in May and it had like the kind of final controls, I was like, money. You guys nailed it. And I was like super excited. And like, sometimes that's just the way the conversations go.
It's remarkable how much that, like, what a shift that can be with a game over the course of its being made. Like
Yeah,
where you
development's
can
hard.
Development's super hard, and there are times for some games that turn out to be remarkably good that you can play it. Sometimes it's a year ahead of time, sometimes it's 6 months ahead of time. There are games I remember playing a month or two ahead of time that I was like, uh-oh. And then occasionally, though not frequently, they can fix some important things in those.
I remember
last
one of
couple
those games
months.
being Uncharted. I remember them bringing that
That's
into
the one that I'm
office.
thinking of.
Like I think literally like a month or two before
Yep.
we got review code, and it looked real bad, like
Yeah.
real rough. And I know some people think back like, oh, the first Uncharted was pretty bad,
But it was.
I think
it was really rough.
it looked worse than, and also
Yeah.
for the time, like the first Uncharted, I would argue was pretty good. when it
I would
came out,
as well. It's really great game.
for the time.
Yep.
But yeah, the amount of work they put in those last 2 months is pretty impressive.
I mean, a testament to Naughty Dog, really. Like, not criticizing them. I think it speaks to the talent of that team that they were at the place that they were, and in those last couple months, they were able to recognize what needed to happen to turn it from a game that had some big problems into a really fun project.
And game
at
development's
release.
changed a lot, right? Like when
Yeah.
a lot of systems became a part of game development, like when you were building systems and like those systems would have to come online. I think open world's a great example of that. Like when you're looking at something like, let's just say, GTA 3, you know what I mean? When they're building it and they're like, well, we're going to have a whole system where these cars go around and the pedestrians are going to do things. But, when the game is in progress, it's just a bunch of people standing there or the
Yes.
car's not working. And then, by the way, I'm just using them as an example. I didn't actually see that. But, in a lot of games, we'll go see them and they're like, there are a lot of systems that are just not online yet. And they're all kind of like, they come together at some point, and that's when you see kind of all the magic kind of start to happen and take place as those things come online. I have a couple. I wrote down a couple because I did a little searching, and one that I did remember that I thought was interesting was LMNO. You remember that?
that was the Steven Spielberg one.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Good memory, Ben.
Yeah, that was. I don't remember much more about it other than was it like sci-fi or something?
It was one of those things that they were like, this was EALA when they had started that up, and it was like kind of at this, really like I think in the game industry across the board, it was all talking about like how this was the moment when like Hollywood and games
We're gonna come together.
collided, right? You know what I mean? When it's like
Because Steven Spielberg was like the spear,
Not
the
just-
tip of the spear to that. Yeah.
Yeah, not just he is. I mean, obviously he puts a big name to it, but I think at the same time too, it was like, hey, in the past we would have gotten, an artist to do this, and now it's like we're getting the same level visual effect artists who are doing, Terminator.
Yeah.
Are coming in and doing games. It was that was, I'm sure some of it's marketing, but you know what I mean. Like that was the talk. That was the game environment, and EA had made this deal to have Steven Spielberg work on this game, and I think the goal of this game was to have almost like a Yorda, to have a companion with you, or an Ellie, that would go with you in the game, and that you would create a bond with them. And they had a famous game developer, Doug Church, worked on it as well, and it was kind of they wanted to make you cry. They were very clear about like they wanted they wanted it to be a relationship that grew as you play the game, and kind of use those Hollywood techniques to create.
Well, like that. What was that Peter Molyneux thing that never
Oh, the
came out?
the boy
Yeah,
that you talked
the
to,
boy.
Milo,
Project Milo.
or was that his name?
Yeah,
Project
yeah,
Milo,
that's another one right there.
Yeah, they got Milo. Yes.
Peter Molyneux thing that never came out. He has to nail that down.
We need more details.
The only one.
And also, we had the dog in the Fable,
He
which is
did,
also
yeah.
another one. I mean, he really wanted to make us cry.
I like
And it
that
worked.
dog, though.
Yeah, that was a
Um,
good. That was well done.
But that was an interesting one. I mean, I guess I don't, because I never really saw anything of it, so I don't know if it was good or not. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think it'd be cool to have a Steven Spielberg game, right?
Well, there was
blocks.
there was fruits to that labor, right? That weird
puzzle
block
game.
game.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
What was
yeah.
that called?
Boom Blocks?
Yeah,
That was like the best game. I remember
That was
getting that for
totally a
review.
Steven Spielberg joint.
Yeah. I don't know what he did with that game or how much input he had, but
it made us
whatever.
cry. Made us all cry.
When that block came into place, I was just like,
That was a good game.
yeah.
I stand by that. Yeah. I remember me and Brian were playing that game for review, and we had a blast. We had a boom.
A boom and a block.
That's right.
And-
There
and-
was, speaking of like directors getting into games, I remember Guillermo del Toro was doing that Insane game with THQ
Oh, yeah.
back before. I don't know if
That's
that was on
right.
yours, but like,
Yeah.
I always thought that was an interesting project. And I never have that much confidence in like, here's a famous person from another industry going to come into our industry and let me show you how it works.
Yeah.
But like, I was very curious because I think that guy has a very cool sense of style and visual
Yep.
language capability. So I think he would have had some interesting, something to bring that he could bring
Sure.
into like
Well, and
horror
Ben
and
Hansen
games.
did a full special edition Game Informer show about that game with
Did he really?
exclusive interviews and whatnot.
Yeah.
On
Go
listen to that.
Insane. Yeah.
Well, and the similar dynamic to like Fear and Respect, right? Like that
Yeah,
was
John Singleton.
That would have been.
We did a cover on that one.
Yeah, we did, and like that would have been a really interesting thing to see how that all shook out.
Snoop said in some interviews that he was like, I would like to get that game going again, because it starred
Ah.
Snoop. I can't believe that game didn't happen. To tell you
Yeah.
the truth. I just don't understand how it didn't happen.
It sort of felt like it was like Money in the Bank to me.
It did.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, I would have loved to see what John would have done as far as like writing and putting interesting things in there. And I mean, Snoop is just kind of lovable in his own way. And
Big
like,
game fan.
I think it would have been very cool. So I definitely fear. And by the way, I have a whole section here of Game Informer covers that just
Oh, really?
that didn't have.
Yeah.
that I did write down. So it was like Fear and Respect, which we did it. We put on the cover.
Yes.
And we see that cover in the office from time to time.
Yes,
it's
that's
still
person's
floating around
office.
here.
Yeah.
We should have brought it in here to show it off.
And then the other one, there's still three more. Once it made me laugh for a while. Matt Burtz, we used to kind of joke when we sent him on a cover story,
Yeah.
he was going to kill the game
Yeah.
because he'd done Command and Conquer Tiberium and Rainbow Six Patriots.
Yes,
Right.
both of which went away.
But both of which I went and saw, by the way, and I thought they looked cool, and I thought they were in interesting ways of like doing interesting things in games, and they just
Patriots in particular felt like, why did that not come out? It's
That's a
very
really
strange.
interesting cover story to go back and read too. The Patriots one. We put that online, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The demos we saw for it were like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? Like totally
Yeah.
over the top. And I was very excited to play that game.
Very political.
Yes, very political.
game.
And then everyone wants to back away from being political
We-
while saying you're political.
We had a game which I guess I don't even know if we're off on NDA for it now, so I won't say what it was. But there was a game that was canceled for us the day we were gonna ship.
Oh yeah, that's the Lord of the Rings, the White
Oh,
Council.
I didn't know if we could talk about it.
Well, I wrote it down. I don't know if we can talk about it or not, but I wrote it down. It's out. It's out
there
there.
was a story. It is written. The trip was taken, and
Oh, we were walking out the
We were
door
going
on
out
a
the door,
Friday, and
out of-
everyone's
yeah.
like, "Bye," and then like my phone rang, and
Yeah.
I picked it up, and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
And it was like canceled, and I was like, "Hey, everybody! Before you leave on this Friday,
New
before you
magazine.
leave, don't leave for the next 3 days.
need to write a
'cause
cover
we're
story,
gonna write
yeah.
a cover story. I don't. What did we do?
we did a top
We
50.
top 50.
And it's that
it
one
Was,
that-
it
it's
happened
that-
to be like a February, March kind of time.
Yeah,
frame.
and it's the one that's it's got the like the orange top 50, and it was the one where we took all the pre-made art and we rearranged it, and we did the like silver kind of look to it to
Yeah.
make it look. But I mean, like we were just like, I don't know, grab art from whatever games and put them on. I mean, we were
That was a real scramble.
That was like
insane.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
that was my second or third month here.
Really?
And I remember
Like, did
thinking
you think it was like that's just the way it
like
went?
I just thought like, oh well, sometimes things happen. Like
Yeah.
you got to scramble. Like it was kind of fun in a weird way, but also yeah, looking
I'm
back,
glad it
I'm like,
was
that
fun
was a
for
weird,
you.
unique intro to this industry. But
Yeah.
Did we ever do anything with that cover story? Matt Cotto wrote that, right?
I think he put it online.
Did he?
I asked him if he put it online. He said it's in a classic GI. And we both said, which issue? We went, "Mer," and then I ran up here to do this. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the answer is out there, and we could
Okay.
probably figure it out. But
That'd be
I
very
don't
I mean,
know
that
now.
would have been a neat game to see come to fruition. Like, if you like Lord of the Rings, it was going to be kind of a Skyrim-y.
It was going to
like-
be kind of Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
It was like, it was in that realm of like trying to be like a JRPG kind of like Western Lord of the Rings game, if I remember correctly.
Well, there was
They
the one.
did
There was
actually
the
put that
Third
one out.
Age one, right? That was exactly that. I thought White Council was a little bit more kind of like open
it?
world.
Yeah.
Like
They were talking about
Elder
Oblivion at the time,
Scrolls
yeah.
kind of thing.
oh, well, I mean, like, yeah, I mean,
It would have been neat.
it would have been neat. I mean, I think that's one of those things. It's always, like anything, it's a little bit dangerous when you put a license on it.
Yeah.
Right, because I think the story of the White Council is that they basically lost some of the rights there towards the end, or they weren't going to have enough time to finish the game within their
window.
their window of licensing
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, and it was like,
Oh well.
oh well, that's done, and we were like, oh well, we have a cover, but it's better that we got rid of it before we published it.
True.
So it's
Yeah.
not like one of the other ones that, every once in a while people give us grief for things like Fear and Respect. But I like to point out just a little, I should put out a little Andy, disclaimer here, is that like, it's hard to look at games early on and go, I think this is going to be great. I think we do a really good job of picking a lot of really great games and putting them on the cover, but nobody bats 1,000.
No. Well, and for that matter, Fear and Respect, like we were just talking about, that one should have come out.
Yeah, it should.
Well, that was kind of cool that
Like-
we even talked about it. Like
Yeah.
there's some archive that
That it
game
existed
at one
yeah,
point. Yeah.
exactly.
It was more
Yeah.
interesting in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think just because of our first segment was on about Half-Life, we should make a "Where's Half-Life 3" joke, just to kind of finish this.
Where is Half-Life 3? Is that
You
the
know.
joke?
It's on
Yeah,
next
that's the
month's
joke.
cover, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the first responses I got this week when I made just kind of a
Oh,
thing
really?
about the next
Yeah.
issue. Someone was like, Half-Life 3? I'm like, no.
That game probably got canceled 30 times by now.
Probably. I mean, I've
Started
heard,
up and canceled again.
I've heard they've started and stopped. Yeah, multiple times. That they've had things that the ideas that they thought were going to work and they just moved on from. So I guess it's appropriate here.
as the expectations get higher and higher, tougher and tougher to make an actual.
I would
Half-Life
love
3.
to see them just compile all those ideas into like one disc, and then you can just like here play through our kind of like a beginner's guide style. Like here's a thing, and you can
Yeah.
just play through pieces of what Half-Life
Yeah.
3 could have been.
Sure.
I mean, I think that
Deleted
would be-
scenes kind of thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would wish, or I would hope, and like if Andy ruled the video game world kind of thing, that every developer kept those weird builds and those weird tests, and that kind of like the secret documents from the government that like 15 years later or whatever
Yeah.
that they would release them to either our
mean-
museums or foundations that are out there so people can study what they did and what they looked at. I just think that's super fascinating and would be really great to look through, and I think a lot of people could tell a lot of great stories around that stuff. I wish that was commonplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as if they don't exist. There's no developer out there who pours their heart into a game for the 6 months to a year to 3 years that it takes before it gets canceled. And then it's like, okay, well, let's just put that in the recycling bin. Like they have it,
They do, but
right?
I will
but
say
they
this.
just don't share them.
It's scary that sometimes people finish a game and they're like, oh, we're about to start the next one. Clear off your hard drives. We're about to start over. And they do, right? And I think a lot of like tests and art and things, it happens for us.
Sure.
And we're not even making games. You know what I mean? Where we do things and test them and we just throw them out. And it's
Yeah.
I'm just saying I wish there was a way to keep and archive that stuff, especially with games, just because I think it's interesting in games, much more interesting than the Game Informer stuff that we put on the cutting room floor. But
Valve in the past has done those in-game developer commentaries, though. So hopefully,
Which
at
are
least,
great.
Yeah,
I always
I
loved
love those.
those,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So if they do something like that, we could at least get some description of what they're like.
Yeah, come on, man. Valve.
Yeah, Valve.
yeah,
Has anyone told you to do something yet?
no one ever. All right, let's go on. Thanks for the question, James says. I think that was a fun talk. Hello, Andy and GI crew. Greetings from Kansas City, Missouri. Given the holiday week, I wanted to ask what games the crew is most thankful for. What games are you just truly thankful exist? And you can even go further and look at some game franchises, individual characters, game genres, and even specific game creators you're most thankful for and why. For me, a few that instantly come to mind is I'm so thankful for Miyazaki and for his FromSoft games and his challenge that have challenged me like no other. Miyamoto for creating some of my favorite game franchises in Mario and Zelda and his contagious joy for video games, and Halo for setting the bar for a console FPS and creating some of my favorite multiplayer experiences ever. Would love to get your thoughts. Happy Thanksgiving. Best, Jared Beebe. And I think since this comes out on Thursday, which is Thanksgiving US, I know not global, but bear with us. We eat a lot of food, watch football, and deal with our family for a day. But I do think it's nice to talk about what we're thankful for in games and things like that. So, Leo.
Yeah. I'm thankful that people have the power and the tools to make skateboarding games. When the big companies aren't doing it anymore, there's still like Skater XL and Session and these smaller teams that are able to get the crowd support and have the technology to make that genre exist again. It just wouldn't without people, willing it into
passion and
themselves.
enthusiasm that's just existing outside of the mainstream gaming business.
I was thinking about just the other day. I was like, it seems weird to me in my mind that there was a period in like the 90s and early 2000s where we all just decided to get into skateboarding. It was like everybody's sort of into it like halfway and like, hey, even if you weren't into actual sport, like I was playing those games and I'm not like a skateboarder. Like
very few people gamed during that time who didn't play Tony Hawk.
Exactly.
Games.
And then now it's just like doesn't exist, it feels like.
Yeah.
We were smarter back then.
We really
World's
were.
gone downhill.
Yeah, we're all into skateboarding.
Were you a skater in RL?
Attempted. Took some lessons
Nice.
as a young child.
Lessons?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that was a thing.
I got them for Christmas.
Okay.
All right. Do you still have a skateboard?
Yeah.
That was the hard part is he didn't have a skateboard. He was just taking the
He
lessons.
was just running.
This is what you would do.
Air skateboarding.
Yeah. But then someday when I
Imaginary
finally get a
skateboarding.
skateboard, I'll be amazing
Oh,
at it. I'll know
yeah.
exactly what to do.
I'm sure. That's the way that sport works.
Yeah.
Have you skateboarded to work?
Oh, no.
You thought about it?
No.
No?
It's too far.
It's a lot.
Too far?
It'd be like an hour.
You used to
Like an
you
hour.
used to skate, right?
Back in the day.
Yeah,
day.
you were real.
day.
Yeah.
I broke my arm skateboarding.
Yeah.
Because that's what I did. I'm just a bad athlete, is what it comes down to. But I knew people were really good. And I hung out with them, and I looked cool when I held my skateboard next to them.
Yeah.
That was part of my thing. But I
all
love
about
Tony
it.
Hawk. The Tony Hawk games were amazing. Really, definitely. No, but I think you're right. Like the fact that we have tools to make games that people can, with the passion that you get, especially from indie guys who really put their hearts and souls into those games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is a thing, and like we're very lucky to have a time where they can make games on their own and get them out to us through distribution and things like that, and hopefully make money. Right?
Not just focused on skateboarding either. Like people have really powerful tools right now, and they don't need massive teams and massive budgets necessarily.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anything else?
That's all.
That's all
That's
you.
the
That's all
only
you
thing
that's
I'm
all you-
thankful for.
Yeah.
Everything
Only
else
one
is
thing.
just like All right. Ben.
Let's go down the list. I'm thankful for the Legend of Zelda series. I think there's few games or even franchises in the industry that have been that consistent for so long.
Yeah.
And there's also few other games like that give me that sense of adventure and wonder that I feel when I play those games. I really feel like an adventurer. I feel like I'm becoming more capable and growing. and fills me with childlike joy a lot of the time.
I mean, there is something that is undeniably magical for me of like when the first throws of the main theme start going in a new
for
Zelda
sure.
game, and they always put like a little new twist on it. Makes me real happy.
Yeah.
In a way that's hard to articulate to anybody who doesn't have that particular nostalgia built in from childhood.
Yeah, for sure. And there's bad Zelda games out there, but they're mostly good, and I have nostalgia for it, but I still think like the recent ones are also really good. Link's Awakening is a good solid entry. Like Breath of the Wild blew my mind away. It's a good series, and I really like it.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild, completely devoid of nostalgia, is just like an amazing piece, an amazing step forward, and not really like anything in that franchise's past.
For sure.
I had never played Link's Awakening until this year, and I was blown away by it. It's one of my favorite Zeldas now, so I get it.
Nice.
Wow, that's impressive.
What about this also mentions do you have a game developer you look up to?
Yeah, I was
game
gonna
company that you really like, that you're like, without these guys,
Well, one I was gonna bring up, and this is maybe weird because he's not even in the industry anymore, but Will Wright. I always appreciated him. As I have a lot of fond memories, and especially in high school, of playing like SimCity and The Sims, and I just appreciated he brought an interesting view into making games.
He literally changed the video game landscape forever.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
because
those games just changed the way we viewed everything.
non-combative. People always talk about like, well, you're always like attacking somebody with a sword or a gun. It was like not in those games. Like those games are games, and they're fun to play. They're addicting as hell, and like they're not about combat.
Yeah.
And there is some conflict in there maybe with but it's all based on relationships, which is like a really cool thing to see in a video game.
Yeah.
That, and they're still fun. Like I still think the new the new Sims, newest, is still fun to play, and they put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
So I really respect Will and like what he brought to the industry, and I haven't followed him too much recently, but I hope someday he comes back and makes a new game.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that Double Fine is still around.
Yeah.
There's a world not too different from our own where they had to shut down at any of many different points.
Right.
Yeah.
Lots of moments where that could have happened and it didn't.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Another perhaps safer than ever under
Yeah.
Microsoft's wing.
No, I'm super excited for Tim and the Double Fine crew. Tim Schafer's when I met him, the first time I was like, I was actually kind of in awe of how kind of smart and funny and witty and charming he is. He's like really likable in person, and I've been lucky to get to know him better over the years. I actually got a chance to see him just a few weeks ago, and he's cultivated a group. Like Double Fine is a group. It's just like they're just neat. Like
Genuine is a word that comes
yeah,
to mind when I
yeah.
think about Tim and the people that he works with.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, indeed, like, very thankful for them and what they've done, and I'm so, excited and proud of them becoming a part of Microsoft, and I think that's really, really great news for them, and I think to myself, it's gonna make a difference. Like we're gonna get better Double Fine games, and like it's just gonna be cool.
Yeah,
right?
I'm thankful Psychonauts 2 is even happening at all.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
I'm almost surprised that they haven't had a multi-million-dollar like breakout hit that is like a just giant franchise yet, because they're so experimental and they have so many like good wild ideas, and I think they have a bunch of like a pretty good output too in terms of like number of games that they put out every year, and they just sometimes they lack a little bit of that polish, which I think is what you're getting at, Andy, where maybe we'll have those great, cool, really interesting ideas, but maybe a little more polish to them.
I wonder though, I wonder if they're not, like, to use a music analogy, the band that consistently makes such great music, but it's always just a little bit too
Niche,
avant-garde to ever be the most popular thing. I don't know. I
Maybe.
mean, I would love to see them have a big, gigantic hit, but I wonder whether the kind of games that they make can be that. If only because I mean, almost every one of them's kind of weird.
Yeah,
right?
well, I would say one of the things I would say, and I didn't mean like they didn't have polish. I think their games have polish. My point would be that when we talked earlier about how games are hard and they have a lot of bugs in them, like technology is very difficult. And I think that team has done a great job of being great artists.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they have a good technical team. But sometimes the best way to fix a game's technical issues is by brute force, having a lot of really smart people like approach the problem and tackle it to make your game work the way you want it to work. And sometimes that when you're a smaller company or a mid-range company, you don't have that bandwidth or the dollars to like just brute force your way through some of those things. So it's not like, I don't think it's any kind of diss on their desire or like what they've done. But sometimes it's like, the reason why some of these games look really great is that they spend a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And like high production values, I've made the joke is like, you can take a great game and make it a AAA game by spending a ton of money on the production part. But to some degree, it's like, you can kind of brute force that as well, right? But like the core and the idea and the art is like what's there. And I think they've always had that core. And I think it'd be just nice to get that kind of support on that outer ring that's just a little bit of execution. Yeah. Not that I'm saying the execution is bad. I know I'm talking a little bit over myself here a little bit. I want to make sure that I'm clear on that point.
Well, and when I said polish too, maybe I meant more like kind of refine some of the ideas until they're like super fun. Like I think I don't think their games are super buggy either necessarily, but sometimes they have really good ideas and sometimes they don't work, to the amount that they should. Yeah. It's like, oh, this is a cool idea. It doesn't quite implement the way I would like to see it implemented.
Sure.
Yeah. How about you, Matt? Mr. Miller?
I think I have two answers. One, a game, and one, a developer. The game is not a video game. Can you guess?
It's gonna
Shoots and Ladders?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course.
I would like to point out I wrote down
Gygax.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. I mean, I think D&D is not a video game, obviously, although it's been made into lots of video games over the years. But on both a personal level for me personally and on the broader level of its influence and importance to gaming, both on the tabletop side and the video game side, it's just impossible to overstate how important D&D is. That this little game that grew out of like miniature war games of the 60s and 70s, and that like some like upper Midwest guys getting together and liking the idea of like having a little
and killing America's youth, right? Like that was destroying America
and worshiping
right?
Satan. I think, right?
Yeah, correct.
Did you ever see Mazes and Monsters?
No, although I will tell you that when I was a kid playing D&D, it was not even remotely uncommon when I got a new player in my D&D group for me to have to go to dinner at their parents' house,
really,
and straight up with a straight face explain to them that no, we were not going to kill any goats. We were not. There was nothing, no rituals happening. I mean, this was like
there'll be no candles involved.
Like for people who've gotten into D&D in the last few years and its huge popularity and the streaming and all that sort of stuff, you just don't have any idea that like back in the day, this was like a real like people really thought it was like, oh, so you like worshiping the devil? Like, no, that's not what.
No, that's not part of it.
It's my character. And I wonder how much
like
of it comes
huge
from
thing.
just that demon that's on the Dungeon Master's guide.
I don't know, man. It was wild, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that like that whole idea of embodying a character, the role playing dynamics that are now part of every game almost.
Yeah.
All that stems back from this little game that Gygax and Arneson and their friends kind of put together, and that it has grown over the years. For me personally, there are so many of my closest friendships that came together around the D&D table. It gives me great joy that one of the things that the dynamic of the sort of streaming culture that has emerged in the last few years, for all the things that can be problematic there, one of the things that I think has been great there has been the way it's allowed new people to see other people playing D&D and other similar role-playing games and be able to be like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I could do that. I could get together with my buddies and I could do that. And that has allowed at long last, because until then, it was always like a one-by-one, like, hey, Andy, why don't you come over on Saturday?
Come see how it works.
And we'll play. And that is how you got converts. And the fact that converts to worshiping the devil.
Yes, exactly.
No, like converts into the game and to the joy of creating a shared narrative with each other. Mm-hmm. So I think that game's really important. I'm super thankful that it exists.
I'm also really, when we did our RPGs of all time that we put number
Yeah.
0. I don't know how we came to that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Remember we argued about it, but I was like, I love that. I was very
That's cool.
very, very happy when we put that in the issue.
Yeah, me too. So that's my one answer. My answer for developer is Harmonix.
Yeah.
I think Harmonix has been doing their thing, sometimes in silence, or not silence, their music
Yeah.
game maker, but sometimes under the radar, let's say, for many, many years now. And what they do is really special and different. There was that period where they were at the top of the world in terms of the phenomenon of Guitar Hero and Rock Band and all that kind of stuff. And that's awesome that they had that moment. But even in the moments before and after that, I think they've remained a really awesome studio that approaches games in a different way than most developers do. I think they are musicians first, who then find ways to bring music into the interactive sphere. And that's oftentimes when I play a new music game, even some of their more recent stuff, like the VR Audica game that is currently one of their projects. There's a sense of musical awareness to their projects and to musicality and to choreography and to just things that a musician would think about.
Yeah.
But that game developer isn't necessarily hardwired to do, that you get from them that I think is really special.
Yeah.
And those games that were big phenomenons like Guitar Hero and Rock Band. I mean,
Phenomenon.
I think almost anybody who was like active in games around that time has some pretty awesome memories of like going to a party, playing those games, screaming along to some lyrics to some song. It was just a blast.
It reminds me of the skateboarding thing. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we all collectively decided we're going to get into music games
Yes,
for like 5 years.
for like 5 years.
And
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, now we don't do that anymore. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Those games are still fun.
They
They're
are
so fun.
super fun.
Yeah, I'd fight for Rock Band 3 for the best game of that generation, just
Yeah,
as far as like
it's
the
really,
most
really
fun
great.
I ever had playing games.
Yeah.
And it
That
had
time.
made like weird. Like I love DJ Hero.
Yeah.
I had so much fun with DJ Hero, and just
Yeah.
like this the way
Which
that
wasn't
it's-
Harmonix, by the way.
It wasn't, but I'm just saying, like, but just that they spawned.
Yes, they spawned that
thing,
whole
and
thing.
even
Yeah.
Beat Saber, which I've been playing. Like those are all the children that came from that tree.
Yeah, and if you talk about them being great musicians, like Drop Mix is just so impressive technologically. The way it mixes songs live is just so impressive. Like
Yeah.
it's a fun game to play, and it's
Yeah.
also just
You
a
will
mind-blowing
marvel.
piece of technology.
I haven't seen anything like. I mean, I know Drop Mix is sort of old news now. Like it's a couple years old, and it never really caught fire.
Can you still buy that if you want to
I
buy
think
it?
yeah,
you can
it's
still
still getting packs.
Yes.
Really?
They're still putting
It's
new
still
content
it's still
out.
coming out, and I would really encourage people who are fans of either tabletop games or music games. You will not go wrong with Drop Mix. It's a really cool thing.
And I bet
Just-
Black Friday there's going to be some good deals.
Yeah, to be able to like have these cards that are going out onto this electric board that are like literally making your own song as you put them out into play, and then it works together with this sort of simple card game formula that you're playing.
Yeah, the
It's really
competitive
cool.
mode is really fun, and they added 2v2 recently, like
I haven't played
cooperative
that yet.
competitive. It's a blast.
Cool.
It's really fun to get a group.
I didn't
group
realize they
together
were
to do
still supporting it that hard. Like,
that. Yeah,
that's crazy.
there's a
But see,
puzzle mode now.
That's what I'm talking about with Harmonix. I feel like they do that. They sort of struggle sometimes in relative obscurity, but they do really, really good work. They release a bunch of games. I mean, how many people played Fantasia? Not that many people. It was on Kinect. It was it's a bad business decision by most measures, but it's a really neat game. And I think Harmonix just keeps plugging away at that, and they have a clear mission of bringing music to both musicians and people who aren't musicians, and using the power of music to kind of bring people together. And that's kind of beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. So Leo, I'm going to switch back to you. Do you want to add anything after your just one note answer? Do you have a developer or that you'd like to mention?
He
that I'm
did have the
thankful for?
Double Fine thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean,
Okay,
I'll
yes.
take claim for that, but
Yeah.
I gave him the idea.
You get the points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, I'm just super grateful for how many indie developers there are out there. I feel like people say this is a weaker year, and maybe that's true in the AAA space, certainly, of like it not being a clear game of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple
Yeah.
of choices the way there has been the last few years, but I think there's been a ton of indies I fell in love with this year, including like Disco Elysium. I'm just so thankful someone made a game like that. Just no
Yeah.
fighting. Every conversation is just this branching story that can go a million different ways. And you can spend 30 minutes talking to one person and not get bored.
My backlog feels fuller this year than I think it was last year. And
Yeah.
I think you're right that, last year I had like 2 very big standouts the way that I don't think we quite have this year, but like I still feel like pound for pound, like there's a lot from this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It's been a great year. How about you, Alex? Any thoughts from you in the box?
Yeah, so one is it's a little different, but I am very thankful for the Xbox Live team, who made Xbox Live. It has helped me maintain relationships for 10 years, however long I've been playing.
Yeah.
I have a buddy who I've known longer than my sister. We became friends in preschool, and we still hop on like Red Dead and Call of Duty together. So,
And you refuse to talk to anybody
yeah,
outside of Xbox Live.
yeah, that's the only. That's the
the only way you
avenue.
talk to your sister.
Even now, you're in this booth,
Yeah.
and we can't see you.
I have a live headset on.
That's
right.
right.
Now.
Yeah.
So I grew up all the time with adults telling me that you're going to lose your high school friends, and I'm without Xbox. That may have been true. Like Xbox Live, just having that collective moment together, even when people were in Duluth and other states and stuff. So I was very thankful for that. And then Mass Effect 2 is probably one of the games I'm most thankful for. I haven't experienced like an affection for characters like that really outside of that, and that's one of my favorite games of all time. So,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for games going in such a social direction,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a world where they didn't. But right now, it's such a great way to make friends and bond over something easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shared experience.
Oh, for sure. I put this out the other day, but I was having a bad day. You know what I mean? I was pretty run down, kind of bummed out, sitting at home, and it was like one of those you have one of those moments where you're just like, I know I have 50,000 games I can play, but I was just like immobilized by it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to watch anything. I don't want to do anything. Even my dog's like looking at me with his ball going like, what's up with you? Right? And
I got
I'm
this ball. This is fun.
and then like my phone rings, doesn't ring. Well, I get a buzz, and it's one of my friends, and he's on Discord. He's like, let's play. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, okay. Like that's motivation. I get on. The whole group gets together. We start BSing and having a good time, and we go kill some things. And I was like,
Is this part of a D&D cult? Is that
no,
what-
I know. It's just like I'm just saying that I love it when games do that. Like when I'm like at the thing, and I think that's one of those things. To your Xbox Live point, Alex, that like it's changed a lot. Like we can talk to these people, and there's people I talk to and I play with. That some know who I am, some don't know who I am. Some people who know who I've been friends with forever, and we've never met, and it doesn't really matter. We have a relationship through games, and like that's really important. So those relationships are really important to me, right? And change my real life through my virtual friends, and I'm thankful for that. I think that's a
Definitely.
great point. I wrote down a couple things. I write down too much stuff, so I'll go through them kind of quickly. I think. You mentioned Miyamoto in the letter. I think Miyamoto's just like, I mean, it's Miyamoto.
A lot of things
right? Yeah.
follow.
None of us
because
are here
Miyamoto.
without Miyamoto.
Yeah, and I also think another one, Ralph Baer, is important to mention. I put down. I love that Ubisoft is zany and really takes chances on making some like different games that like a lot of AAA people wouldn't make. And I just want Ubisoft to know. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Even when
Yeah.
the games aren't great, at least you tried.
Yeah.
Right?
And I like
Yeah.
that.
When
And
somebody
sometimes they are
announces,
great.
when somebody announces a new console, Ubisoft's there. To
Yeah.
help them out.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? We're gonna put out some games.
Yeah.
We're going to make a game for this crazy system.
Yep.
And again, not batting 1,000, as
Yeah.
none of us are, but like Watch Dogs Legion, no other giant company is making a game that new and strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that vein too, I miss UbiArt so much. Like I love Child of Light. I love the Rayman games. I wish they would do more with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that still around?
I don't know.
It's
Honestly,
in
I straight
holding.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, we like it when you're zany, Ubisoft, to think what the message is. Like, keep being you. And I
Keep
love
trying
that,
things.
Yeah, and I love that Ubisoft was one of those companies in the last few years that I think gave a lesson to everyone else in the industry when they were like, oh, Rainbow Six Siege, dead in the water. And they were like, no. we're going to keep supporting these games and backing them up. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of other companies have followed through on and gone on with.
And that's not the only game they've done that with.
No,
like
it's not.
I've even ones that haven't found that same success. I would point to For Honor being a game that grew a lot post-launch.
Yeah.
Even the big ones like Assassin's Creed.
I think they've supported that game really well.
So, I love that kind of art culture that they keep and they try to support the people that make stuff there. So kudos to you, Ubisoft, for that. I also wanted to mention, I like EQ and WoW, and I want to mention all the teams behind that, everyone that worked on those games. You've ruined and enlightened my life all at once. So thank you for that. I also want to say Rockstar, I think, has changed the landscape in a lot of ways. Like the games that they've made, the open world games they've made have been instrumental. I think they've been transformative. Like, and when you play them, I think they're like the way they've built worlds and done things have really changed games. And, thanks to Rockstar for that.
Mm-hmm. And I've been thankful I can put hundreds of hours into Red Dead Online without having to spend money on it.
Yeah.
I can
good.
earn the paid currency.
That is cool.
I
Very
appreciate
cool.
that.
And so, I think just a couple of names I want to show out there was like Sid Meier. I think, is just that guy makes games.
Yeah.
I think that's important, and he's doing some really great stuff out there. Technology guys like Tim Sweeney, John Carmack, who basically, changed a lot of things out there. I just think those are two legendary people that are worth mentioning, or even three, I should say, right there. And then I had Gary Gygax down on there.
yeah.
So I do think he's important to kind of circle back around. But
And you, the listener.
and you, the listener.
That's right.
That's right.
And
Take a look
you.
in the mirror.
and I can't get out of this without saying Metroid rules and
Yes, it
Metroidvania's
does.
rules. So there we go. Thank you so much for that question, Jared. Very fun to kind of look back, and I hope everyone out there that's listening to this on Thanksgiving or the following week, and with the holidays in front of us in December, thank you guys for listening, and thank you for being a part of the Game Informer community. And we wouldn't sit around and talk endlessly and in circles without you.
That's right.
So thank you very much. Last question. Here we go. Hi, GI Show
This is
crew.
a yes or no answer. Is that right?
I have not done one of those yet.
That'd be amazing, actually.
Yeah.
I still want to point out, I don't know that I'm just like, I should point out, I don't really listen to podcasts, and I'm hosting a podcast.
It's obvious.
Is it? It probably is.
No,
It
no,
probably
it's
is
not.
fairly obvious.
I think you're fine. There's so
Yeah.
many
Doing
different
great.
types of podcasts.
good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
But it does crack me up. I'm like, am I ruining it? Question mark.
The podcast genre?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I listened to
I don't know.
podcasts through 2019, and then Andy McNamara got in there, and I was like, I don't think I like podcasts.
You know how
anymore.
Surreal came out and kind of changed the landscape? It was kind of bookended by the Game Informer show. Like, they ended it.
Well,
We're back to radio now.
Yeah, we're done.
So there's that. So after listening to your last podcast and dodge your way around the portal gun because it's a tool and not a weapon exclusively, I decided to make this a trilogy of scenarios. By the way, I kind of love these like building lists like live. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, no.
Sure.
This is I'm sorry to the listeners that hate this. I'm sorry to the panel that's here, but we're doing another one.
Okay.
We're doing another one.
We got another 4 hours here.
yeah,
Is that what-
well,
Yeah, I'm sorry to your data caps.
you are now the owner of a hardware store, and in this store you have a huge glass display to fill with any 5 video game tools or tool weapon combos. I actually think I might make an adjustment here, in which I would like to discuss with the panel, that maybe we remove tool weapon combos and just do tools.
Yeah.
Tools.
More
Just
interesting.
purely tools in this
Okay.
hardware store.
Okay.
It would be wise to make it the 5 most iconic video game tools, as it tends to draw a crowd.
Okay.
I love it when they're written like this. This is the best.
So in this scenario, the gravity gun counts as a tool.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Did we didn't put it on the weapons thing, did we? If we did, that's a problem.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why people wrote in complaining.
Well, there's about the portal gun is what he referenced.
I think we need more rules, guys.
I think we
Yeah,
definitely need
let's
more
really-
rules, and we
yeah.
need to do
Let's
some
not
research.
rush into this.
We're welcome to our end of year conversations, by the way, where we spend half the time just coming up with, okay, so what are the rules?
Yeah.
Yeah, we like rules.
Because
So
portal gun is obviously. on it.
Let's hear it.
let's
What are we
finish this
doing
out.
here?
So we're looking for tools such as the crowbar from Half-Life,
Okay.
something instantly recognizable as part of the game and or a staple of the franchise.
Okay.
Can't wait to be there for the ribbon cutting ceremony. Thanks, Cameron from Michigan.
So
The
Are-
ribbon cutting ceremony for a hardware store?
Are we
Correct. I love it. We're role playing.
All
This
right,
is
yeah,
D&D.
great.
I
right?
like
Yeah.
it too. I'm curious, is our hardware store, is our goal to have interesting tools, or are we really just like, these are things that I recognize, like that's from that game? Like what's our thing we're trying to do here?
I want them to be interesting tools.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like a
'Cause
crowbar would be a terrible
I
choice,
think the crowbar,
in my opinion.
crowbar is iconic from Half-Life, but I don't
like
know.
crowbar.
You can get it at any hardware store.
Yeah, but like, it wasn't. Nobody cared about crowbars until they put it in Half-Life, and then you're like, crowbars.
Nobody
they're-
cared
And
about
then suddenly,
they're-
for
everyone
those-
loves them.
the
Except for
crowbar market.
Those
really,
second story, man. Everybody else, nobody cared about
So
crowbars.
we could also have the portal gun on there, which just defies
gun, yeah.
or the laws of reality, is my thing.
That's number
versus a
one.
crowbar that's painted
Yeah,
a
I
certain
feel
way.
like I would go with a lot of reality-breaking things.
Well,
Yeah,
the crowbar
for
is.
interesting tools.
All right, let's go. Okay, before we argue over the rules,
Okay.
let's just start putting things up on the whiteboard here, right?
All right.
Let's just start come up with some tools before we're arguing about. We're already trying to argue tools off the list or on the list. Let's just get some things on the list.
I want to start with the Zelda boomerang. I want a boomerang that I hold, that I see that bag of Doritos on the far side of the room.
Yeah.
I want them in my hand right now. I throw the boomerang unerringly. It goes straight out, picks up the bag of Doritos. It brings them back to me.
Goes through all the
flying over
items
us.
in the
Goes-
world.
Sometimes it bounces, but it always gets. It gets the thing I'm looking at. It brings it back to me.
And
So
you
you're
have a
looking for a
bit-
tool that gets you chips.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
and crushes them.
No,
No,
they're
no,
gonna
you-
come back to me perfect.
Oh, okay.
That's what Zelda's taught me.
Perfect.
I-
I was trying
I-
to think if there's a better Zelda tool, but you might be.
Hook shot.
The hook shot is the other one that is also pretty cool. Because the hook shot can also bring you something, but it can take you somewhere.
It could take you somewhere
True.
too, which
Yeah.
is kind of neat.
Yeah. I like the Splinter Cell optic cable. If you want to get that in there, the little camera cable you put under the door.
Well,
to
that's
see
kind of
if
a
guys
real
on the
thing,
other
isn't it?
side. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
So is a crowbar.
Would you?
Yeah,
would
isn't
you?
it wrong,
If you had something from Splinter Cell, would you rather that, or would you rather just be able to walk around with sticky shockers all day?
Those are fun.
Yeah, those feel like a weapon.
count
though.
like a weapon, though, in my mind. Because you're
Okay.
actually like disarming an enemy, right?
And,
You're not killing them,
and
but-
electrocuting them.
Yeah.
I suppose that's a weapon.
Right.
I suppose.
I think one of the ones that we brought up last week that I'm kind of would think would be pretty cool is the bionic arm from Bionic Commando.
Yeah.
that fits in smoothly here, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as a tool, like to be like, looks like my there's a lot of leaves up on my roof.
Sure.
What am I gonna do about that? Zing! I'm up there. Take care of it.
Zing,
Done.
flew past my roof, crashed into the neighbor's house.
I don't need a boomerang to get the chips across the room. I just use my
that's true.
bionic arm.
It does have the downside, though, that when you have it, you're not allowed to jump anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, you can't jump anymore. And I wonder, can you swim? Can you go in the pool?
Probably not.
Is this short out?
Yeah.
Can you go out in the rain?
you'd
I
always
don't
be
think
close
so.
to your wife, though. She'd always be
Yeah.
right by your
I
side.
forgot about that. Yeah.
Classic Bionic Commando reboot
I-
story moment.
So here's
God,
a
that was so bad. Look it up, guys, if you don't know.
yeah,
what
it's ridiculous. Does it have to? Does the tool have to originate in video games? So, for example, like Spider-Man's web shooters, which are pretty rad, and I would love to have a pair. Like, does that count because it originated in comics?
Yes, because you'd say I specifically want the one in Spider-Man 2002, that game, because you can just swing from the sky and you don't actually have to hit
Oh
it.
my gosh, that's true.
Yeah, and that's only part of that game.
How about a one-up mushroom from Mario? That feels valuable.
Is that a tool though? That's a consumable,
Okay.
right? Isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think we have to. I think Spider-Man's. I agree. It comes from someplace else, but I mean, it's in a lot of video games.
Okay. Yeah. So another one that's in a lot of video games, I don't know which one to pick, would be like a hoverboard of some kind.
Oh yeah.
Sonic Riders.
Yeah, specifically that one.
Back
is
to
the
the
one I was
Future
thinking of.
game had it too, right? The
Yeah,
original.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right,
I was-
hoverboard. I,
remember
like that.
what Jack 2, I think, had a pretty cool hoverboard.
Now,
I like that you're
here's-
taking notes about this too, by the way.
well, we have to go back through and
The
come together with
opening's
the
next
list.
week.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
There's a
The
ribbon
ribbon
cut the
ceremony.
ribbon.
Yeah, it's coming, man.
Yeah, I think fart in a jar you could use in a lot of different situations.
So I want to bring up one challenge here.
Okay.
I do like the hoverboard, but I don't know if it's a tool so much as it is like
Or a vehicle.
a vehicle or like just for fun. Like it's a tool for fun, but I don't think it's a tool. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't accomplish something.
Well, get you somewhere.
It does.
So that counts
but
as a vehicle? Is that in your mind?
I would question I'm just throwing out. I don't know that I think the hoverboard is an acceptable.
Okay.
Because then we
entry.
could think of a really cool car we'd want at this hardware
Yeah,
store.
All right.
you know
so
what I
next
mean?
week somebody will write in about top 5 vehicles, and then you'll have
Your
to.
car
And,
dealership.
and by the way, they continue to make the content, and I'm just fulfilling their
That's true.
request,
Just
right?
answering
And
a question.
So
Yeah.
that's
Man.
great, and I get to be lazy and not come up with any ideas for the show. Win, 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 win.
Yeah.
So hoverboard doesn't count.
I don't think hoverboard counts. No, panel? Anyone?
Until somebody
Alex
asks
in
us
the box?
about the vehicles.
I say no.
Yeah. All right. No.
And nobody's
Sorry,
asked
no.
us about vehicles yet. So,
No. Yeah.
What about a camouflage system like Metal Gear Solid 4?
Oh, something that turns
Ooh.
you like invisible?
Yeah.
or a
that
cardboard
is
box.
a tool.
That's
Cardboard
also-
box.
Yeah.
That is a
True.
tool. I mean, it's used as a tool.
It is.
Yeah,
I just
wasn't
wish we
excited
could have a
about-
cardboard box
I
in
wasn't
real life.
excited about the crowbar, but I definitely want a cardboard box on display at our hardware store.
Oh, he didn't say it had to be a great opening.
It's
It
a-
could be kind of like, this is the opening, and you're like, look,
Like,
crowbar,
I can
box.
hide inside of it.
Do you know that the cardboard box is in the Toy Hall of Fame?
No, I didn't know that.
that's awesome.
pretty
The
great.
cardboard box is in the Toy Hall of Fame.
I can,
fun.
I know cats love them.
Yeah,
It's probably in
I-
the Cat Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no, I have a toddler. I can
Yeah, it's valid.
Say
You can
it's
turn a cardboard
definitely
box into a car. You can
a
turn
lot
it
of good
into
stuff.
a hiding space.
I also
Yeah.
love the fact that like our
Ford.
hardware store would have like a naked mannequin, and we'd be like, it's wearing the camouflage gear.
Right.
Yeah, just for how weird our window display could be, which I think there's something to be said for it being
I just imagine.
extremely odd.
I'm imagining the crowd as the
boomerang.
curtain comes open, the ribbon's cut, and everybody outside is like, sort of starts to clap and like, what? Cardboard box, crowbar,
Hey, I was looking,
naked mannequin.
A rock you throw to distract people.
and then someone just walks up and goes like, I'm looking for a screw like about this long.
we don't carry that.
Yeah, we don't actually do any of that
What
hardware
game is that
stuff.
from?
Yeah, we don't know that. I have no idea what you're talking
This
about.
is game hardware.
You know, I
I don't know
mean,
what you want from us. We got cardboard boxes.
why'd you come here?
Any other ideas?
Well, we kind of joked about the rock, or Leo did, but that kind of makes sense. I mean,
It's a
what's
tool.
a more like used tool? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of more used basic tool
Yeah.
than a rock.
It's really up there.
Yeah,
Great
rock's
point.
very, very, very used tool.
So I don't know if that's what we're going for. Is like
It might
used?
be the most used tool in history.
Once again, I love that in our window display. It's like there's just a rock.
Rock.
Just a rock there.
Yeah, we wanted the portal gun, but turns out it's not real.
Yeah.
We just have to have this rock.
we have a rock.
I called all over the place.
We just couldn't find it. Nobody has it in stock.
Alex, any ideas
What
for
about
the box?
the non-ridiculous one? What about the pickaxe from Minecraft?
Iconic, certainly.
Yeah, sure. I think
That's
I
good.
think that fits.
Yeah, mining.
I
Or the one
have
from
my
Fortnite.
doubts
Or-
about that pickaxe working the way that
It does a
she
lot of
used
things.
it.
It's pretty amazing.
it does a lot of things in that game. I feel like if I had a pickaxe and I jumped at a cliff wall and swung at it and tried to climb, that'd be the story of how Miller died. Right?
sorry.
I mean, like it wouldn't work, would it?
It's a sad story.
Yeah.
You don't think you'd be able to hit a rock wall with a pickaxe?
And hang there on it and climb on it? No. I don't think I could do that.
I
Do
think.
that in Minecraft. Are you thinking of Tomb Raider?
Are you thinking of Cliffhanger, the movie?
I guess I'm
Starring
thinking of in
Sly
Tomb
Stallone?
Raider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those would be great tools, though. I'd love to climb like that.
Yeah.
That'd be very fun. Those
Yeah, the ice
two
picks.
Ice picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
Gosh.
are a great iconic weapon.
Honestly,
But she
if
does
we
use
could
it
do
for
it like
combat
that.
also.
Yeah.
Does she?
Yeah.
that's a good
But they're
point.
definitely
melee
a
attacks.
tool that's being used in other ways.
For sure.
How about Mario Hammer? The original.
that's a
like,
weapon.
That's definitely a weapon. He murders a lot of Goombas with
Oh
that.
well, if you're just talking in Donkey Kong,
Yeah,
he's
it's just
smashing crates,
yeah,
I
it's
guess,
just a- it's
or
just a hammer.
barrels.
Oh, that.
I'm just saying it's a tool that like, you know, a lot of tools can be used as weapons.
about
I mean, the
Karibo's shoe?
crowbar that is our original thing, it can be used as a weapon as well. But we're saying it's a tool kind of thing.
Well, that was going to be my sticking point with the crowbar.
Yeah, we were going to circle back to that.
Oh,
We're going to have to talk
Yeah.
about
Were
it.
you guys
that
have a
crowbar.
conversation I was unaware of?
Yeah.
Karibo
Boy?
shoe.
Is the Pip-Boy considered a tool?
Oh, that's a tool.
That's a great point.
That's a tool. That's a good one.
That's
That
a
would
good
be
one.
on there.
I like that one.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that and the portal gun for sure.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to read through what we got here.
I'm Team Rock personally.
Yeah,
I love the
definitely
idea of
Rock.
that in there.
I might
Messing
be
up
like,
again.
I want to make our display be just sad and pathetic. I'm kind of on board. Like, there's going to be better choices, but I kind of like making it weird. So Spider-Man, web slinging, tools, crowbar, tool, Zelda boomerang tool, optic cable to camera to look under doors.
Yeah. That's
tool, bionic arm tool to lift you up to floating platforms
And be
in
close
the
to your
air.
wife.
A camouflage, optic camouflage, cardboard box, Pip-Boy, portal gun, rock, and pickaxe. Did we miss anything there?
I mean, that seems comprehensive to me.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can't spend all day here. We could probably think of more. We could Google. We could do all kinds of things. But we're not cheating. This is all live. We're getting there. So
We're building a hardware store.
we're building a hardware store. Okay, so any choices? Rock's in
Rock
for sure.
is
I like
number
rock.
one, isn't
Rock,
it?
okay,
Yeah.
Rock's in.
Very flexible.
Pip
And that's
Boy?
in a glass box, so nobody can steal
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who gets to choose the rock?
Well, you got to order those
Leo.
from a supplier, I think.
Maybe we could call the Rock and ask him to find a rock for us,
We
or
could.
have the Rock hold the rock
Could be
for
our
us. That would make a better
spokesperson.
display.
In the display, 24/7.
I feel like we should select a rock selector, and I'm gonna nominate Leo.
Thank you so much.
I think I believe in you. I bet you can find the correct rock for us.
I choose the rock from Rock of Ages. If you remember that game.
That's a really big rock. It's gonna take up most of the window.
Exactly.
All right.
All right,
Eye-catching.
So next on that list, Pip-Boy.
Okay, I want to circle back on that. What are you gonna do with the Pip-Boy? Are you lost in a wasteland?
Manage your inventory. Remove your clothes.
what
and
time
Your
put
it
it back on.
inventory, you've got a rock. What else do we need to?
Well,
Equip and unequip it.
we're just the hardware store. We don't care what people
Yeah.
do with it.
well, this is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I don't know what are we gonna do with it? This is
We're
We're
going
yours.
to
radio.
sell
Oh,
it
This is
and
yours,
make
Alex.
money.
What do you want to do with the Pip-Boy?
Put it on a shelf
I mean,
and
yeah.
sell it?
I mean, it's basically an iWatch at this point, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so-
a really big iWatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
you're
could
just
slow
saying
down
we-
time with it, couldn't you?
You're saying we would make a lot of money selling Pip-Boys at our hardware store?
Well, I suppose we could make some money. I didn't think that was our deciding factor.
No,
I don't
it's
think we're gonna
not.
make a lot of money on the rock either.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like, it's interesting you didn't have an objection to the rock. Like, what are we going to do with this rock in our hardware store?
How much is that rock? That's $400.
Oh, I'll just go find one out back then in the alley.
Well, you're lost. You're lost. I
Pet
mean, this
rock
is
was a thing for a
this is the
while,
best rock.
right?
Okay, well,
Miller's disappointed that we're cynic-
okay,
it's a
let's not-
cynical
okay.
cash grab, you
All
know.
right.
on the Pip-Boy.
Used to be about good hardware.
Yes, it used to be about good stuff.
Good
How
hardware
about
people.
cardboard box? Let's continue weird. Let's have cardboard box, rock as
like-
the two
I
entries
love
so
it.
far.
Like cardboard
around it.
box.
All right,
Yeah.
cardboard box and rock are two for sure.
Wait, so we skipped over Pip-Boy because of Miller?
yeah. We'll come back
All
around.
right, all right.
Spider-Man, web slingers, crowbar, anything?
I think the
Anyone?
web slinger covers what the boomerang was going to do and what the bionic arm was going to do.
That's true.
I think it's
Yeah, you
good.
can do it all that, and
Yeah.
you
all
just
around.
and you like
And you
Spider-Man.
can be Spider-Man.
And you get them coming back to
Yeah.
buy more cartridges.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if that's a good point. And if a customer is leaving and they didn't buy enough, you can just web them up and pull them back in.
Okay, web slingers
And
it
shoot
is.
'em.
Web slingers it is. Web slingers it is. And we're acing out the bionic arm and the Zelda boomerang based on that this covers it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So crowbar has to make it now, right?
Well,
Have we said portal gun?
that feels like a weapon to me because I feel like I used it more
I
as a
used
weapon.
it more as a weapon than I did to.
Okay. Portal gun then?
I think portal gun should make it.
All right. Rock, cardboard box,
Yep.
web slingers, portal gun.
And a mirror.
Everything for $1.
Yeah.
And the watch from Dead Rising. Just a regular watch.
Just a watch.
Just a watch that
I
tells
guess
the
a
time.
watch.
it's a tool.
It's
I was
important
also
to tell
thinking-
time.
Like you in video games, there's the classic puzzle of like directing the light. So just like having a mirror to redirect light. That would be our
Do
tool.
you want a mirror?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a tool, right?
Yeah, it's a
I
tool.
guess.
I say we do the pickaxe from Minecraft and we call it a list.
Pickaxe also feels like a weapon. Well, I guess no.
It just does so many things.
What does it do other than smash rock?
I mean, it like. I don't know.
If you're also counting it as like climbing gear, sure.
I mean,
I'm for that.
you can break down almost anything with that thing eventually, can't
Well, we
you?
got rid of the crowbar, and I felt like we needed something that like would really be in a hardware store besides a rock.
Yeah,
We
think
got
we're gonna
cardboard
s-
box.
I think we're gonna sell a lot of portal guns with this lineup.
We should have got more than one.
yeah.
Do you want the rock, the cardboard box, or do you want a portal gun?
Portal gun's actually not for sale. That's just on display.
Just like display.
I would like a portal. We're sold
I got-
out.
Like,
But we have a lot of rocks.
Yeah, we got plenty of rocks. We ordered too many.
Honey, did you get the light bulbs in the hardware store? No.
You got some rocks, though. Well, they had a lot of rocks.
The rock comes with a free cardboard box.
Web slingers, cardboard box, rock, portal gun,
I've come around. I'm for pickaxe. Yeah.
pickaxe.
Diamond? Is it diamond or what are we thinking?
Oh.
Are we going to hand out a award at the end of this for people who are still listening to
Yeah,
this
no one's listening.
conversation?
That's why we should finish it off. I'm trying to get us there. Just someone has to agree on something.
What if
Giant
it's-
pickaxe,
what if
camo,
it's a grappling hook? So
Camo,
it's kinda like-
Pip Boy, optic cable. They're all like kind of loud.
Do your pickaxe.
Let's do the pickaxe.
How is this podcast still going to be 3.5 hours?
I don't know
Talk
how.
about one game.
I know. No, it's just like so bad. It's so bad. We have like 2 segments left.
Yeah.
2 segments left. I told you I'm ruining podcasting everywhere.
Yeah. Sorry to fans of
The
podcasts.
good news is at some point they'll just ask me to leave. They'll be like, just no, and then that'll be fine. We'll move on.
Dishonorable
We'll move on.
discharge.
Yeah, exactly. So
Well, we have an amazing hardware store for
we
you.
we really do. The hardware store featuring a pickaxe, a portal gun, a cardboard box, and Spider-Man-like web slingers.
That's right.
Plus a rock. Opening soon near you.
that's
Thank you all for listening to our community emails. Please send questions to podcast@gameinformer.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with our next segment on Game of the Year, Chat Part 3. And then we have an interview with Justin Leeper. Thank you, panel. You were fantastic. Alyx in the Box, you were amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks. Hello, and welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Andy McNamara. Welcome to section 3. Yeah, we're only at 3. So this is the game. This is part 3 as well of our Game of the Year discussions, which just kind of go through and kind of ask the team what they're excited about, what they played this year that they really liked, that they either stands for something for their own personal Game of the Year or something they think will be in our top 50. Just want to talk about games and celebrate games that they really enjoyed this year. That's definitely the goal. And so the only segment we have left after that is we're going to do an interview with Justin Leeper, who did some performance capture for Death Stranding, which should be an interesting conversation. Justin, for those who don't know, used to be a member of the Game Informer team back in the day, so he's fam. So it should be an interesting conversation. Joining me for this segment is my panel, which once again, Matt Miller. Welcome back, Mr. Miller.
Thank you very much.
Brian Shea.
Can't get rid of me.
I know you are the first double visitor to the Game of the Year.
I snuck in this time.
Yeah, you did. So
You got more to say.
So much more.
You're dominating the conversation.
Got love to give.
Dominating the conversation. And finally, we got Andy Reiner
Hey.
on the show. How you doing?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Excited?
I am. Yeah,
All
I
right.
got some games here. I think I usually kind of skew towards.
Don't answer that yet. And we have Leo in the box. How you doing back there, Leo?
Great, guys.
Fantastic.
Excited to talk about games.
Wait, is Leo giving
See,
his picks as well?
That's why I wanted him on the larger chair, is so you don't forget Leo in the box.
Leo's back there. He's got extra special chair this
Yeah.
this installment.
I've been talking about we should add a monitor so we can see him right here in front, so everyone can see him.
yeah.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I actually would like it if it was like right here, like max headroom style. We can
Yeah.
add the glitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda,
Just green screen behind you guys, me
Just a giant
towering
head.
over you the
Yes.
whole time. Yeah.
Some point, hopefully, we'll see what we can do to change up the set to make it worse. Because that's what I do. I generally I took the podcast, made it worse. I'll take the set and make it worse. I've ruined community emails. What can't I ruin? But I would love to have an image of Leo more often. So that's exciting. So the Game of the Year talks. So we've gone through a number of games. I'm not going to go through what we did in other weeks because we don't care if we have any repeats or anything like
Sure.
that. I just want to ask these guys what they're after. So let's start with you, Andy Reiner, since I interrupted you once already.
Yeah.
So-
Should I continue that sentence? I kind of had an ellipses and just.
Yeah, but
dot.
don't start from the beginning. Just continue where you were.
So are you gonna do something off the wall? Are you gonna do something predictable? What do you got for us?
Well, I'll ask you. What do you want? Predictable or off the wall?
This is all about you. I can't. I don't want to. I don't want to drive here. I just want to be a passenger.
I'm going to start with a curveball.
All right. I like
This thing's
curveballs.
got a good hook. 12-6. Right, Brian Shea? You know what that means?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to
baseball.
go. This game technically came out last year on PC, but it was just introduced on console this year. So for our Game of the Year discussions when we do the top 50, this is going to be interesting, right?
Yeah, we always argue about like when
Where
did it
it
really,
fits.
really,
Yeah.
when it really released.
It's a little farming simulator called Farm Together. And this is a...
what do you do in this game?
You,
Sorry, I couldn't resist. My bad.
It's a first-person
So
shooter.
World War II first-person shooter with zombies.
You're on a submarine. No. So it's a farming game. It's a co-op farming game. So you can have, I think it's 12 people in your farm at once, all working on crops and
It's like a
livestock.
commune, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
it's super cool. But the thing that makes it way different than most games is there's no real fail state. They don't really try to penalize you in any way. So it's all positive progress. So this is a game I've played with my daughter where it's very simple mechanics for farming and, plowing the fields.
Yeah.
And doing all that stuff. But you're just constantly making money. You can run out of money, then you got to go get your crop, but you're making more than you spent.
Okay.
So it's just constant progress, and you rarely see that in a game, but it's done so well here, and it's just peaceful. Margaret, who's in our production department, I think this might be one of her games, maybe the game of the year for her.
How about you?
It might make my top 10.
Might be top 10. All right. Yeah, okay.
It's just calming, soothing, a different experience this year that I've just enjoyed. So yeah, Farm Together.
So
Xbox and PC, I believe.
So tell me more about like playing together. So do you send invites to your friends
Yeah.
to share, or is it just like anyone can join and kind of come in
you,
and farm?
you can have it be open to people like
Just
matchmaking
open,
or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I just send it to my friends, and in between like Overwatch or something, we'll play Farm Together.
Can you have farming?
Dan Tack's done this as well with like his WoW team and our guild and all that stuff. Like,
Can you have
it's-
farming griefers? Can you like open up to matchmaking and have somebody come and burn your farm down?
You can, but you can have like different settings, so you can't.
Okay.
They can only like interact in certain ways.
Okay.
Like no building. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
they can use your valuable resources if they want, but you can turn that off.
Do you leave rude messages or images in other people's crops?
Nope. But you
No.
You get to
Well,
build.
you probably could.
Trying to,
Depend on how you harvest things. You could leave a picture of a.
You could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let your imagination run. I'm just trying to see if
Something,
that's
just
possible.
something, that's all.
Is
That
that
is-
possible?
that is possible.
That is possible.
Yeah,
That is possible.
I've seen that.
You've seen that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not do it.
He's done
I've seen
that.
it.
So Phil did that.
Yes. You know my friends. The other thing, it's been supported heavily with DLC and just adding new stuff to the game for all the big kind of holidays and stuff like that. So there's always something new to do. You get to build a house, decorate the house. There's a lot to this game. It's really neat.
So how does it compare to like Stardew?
It's more relaxing. There's no story. It is just about kind of the simulation aspect, but I don't know. And it's huge. Your farm is, it's like an open world. It's gargantuan, and you keep buying new spaces to keep expanding the size. So if you think about 12 players, you could be off who knows where in a different sector for an hour, and I'll never see you. Yet we're all working towards the same progress. So
So it's like old school, like dig a hole, plant a seed, or
Yeah.
is this like industrial, like
Yeah,
Monsanto kind of thing, or like
it starts off where you're just doing like square blocks, right? Like
yeah.
square, plant corn, another square, plant corn. But then you get a tractor very early on. You're leveling up and unlocking new things as you level. But you get a tractor, and that can do a grid of like 9, blocks, and then you can plant 9 things of corn at once.
epic level farming.
Yeah, it's cool.
So is it realistic graphics?
No, it's cartoony.
Cartoony?
Yeah, I don't know what you'd compare it to. Just very friendly and inviting and just warming through everything it does, and it's just a fun little oddity.
Does it have a cycle, like a time that like you need, like
Yeah.
though you have to like be like, it's been
Seasons.
12 hours, I need to get in there.
Well,
and
not
like,
only that. So
Okay.
yeah, things are on a cooldown. So it's like this crop won't be ready for in-game 12 hours, which is maybe 10 minutes or something like
Yeah.
that, right? But then there are seasons where you can only plant certain crops at certain times of the year. So that kind of changes up the flow of play. Like you have your money crop during the summer. Well, you can't use that during winter, so you got to change it up, try to find a new one. There's a lot to it, actually. It's a neat little game, but again, like, it does not kill your progress like most simulations, where it's like, oh, I got to start again. I screwed up with doing too much of this one thing or the other. It's just constantly making more and more and more, and eventually you just kind of break the game and have infinite resources.
Gotcha.
Which is cool.
That is cool. I mean, I was like, it's always fun to have that. It's like a game genie.
But also, I never thought I'd play a farming simulator with like 12 people. So that's kind of cool. It might even be 16. I don't know. It's crazy.
Did you find you were playing it with big groups?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
fun.
I think the most I played with was maybe 9, something like that. Yeah. But I mean, just having that option is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally crazy. I was not expecting the multiplayer farming game to come.
I want
Yeah.
them to add raids.
Boss
together
fighting a
raids.
giant ear of corn.
It's a tornado comes in. You got to deal with it. It's coming. Yeah.
Milkstone Studio, by the way, is the developer, just to give them a shout out for making a really
Can't get
fun
milk
little
from a
game.
stone.
Yeah, nice.
I think I
fun.
gave it a 8 out of 10, and it's only gotten better since it's been supported.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's a very interesting game. Very interesting game. So, Brian, Shea, you've been on, and I'm trying to remember exactly what games you specifically have brought up.
I brought up Super Mario Maker 2 and Far Cry.
Far Cry.
Those are
All
the
right,
two I
those
brought
are
up
the-
last time.
James.
All right. So, what curveball do you bring today? Ukulele. Today.
We already mentioned ukulele last time I was on. I decided to throw that curveball to go to Far Cry, but I'm going to do a little bit of a curveball because it's a game that came out last year.
Wait a second. We're on a theme here all of a sudden.
Yeah, this is sounding
However-
this is sounding like a slider,
Yeah.
not a curveball.
However, it's a DLC that came out this year, which is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, one of my favorite games from last year, The Fate of Atlantis.
That's an interesting
yes.
choice.
That game, so Assassin's Creed Odyssey may have been my most played game last year, even though it wasn't my pick for Game of the Year. I think I probably poured the most hours into it of
Yeah.
any other title. But the DLC, so there were 2 DLC arcs. I don't know if they both came out this year. The first one was Legacy of the First Blade, which was very much more of the same of the Assassin's Creed Odyssey loop. You know, like
Yeah.
you're doing the same type of missions, and it's progressing the story. And there were some things I liked and some things I didn't like about that first DLC arc. And now the second DLC arc, The Fate of Atlantis, you're not really in that Greek world anymore. The ancient
Well,
Greek
you
world.
are, but
you're,
not in
you're not
that.
in that
Yeah.
ancient Greek world. So you're going to like, you are.
That's so clear.
We're going to explain it.
So it's more focused on like dealing with and fighting like ancient Greek gods. So like the first time you're like in like this like utopian area, I forget what it's called, but like you're dealing with like Hermes and Aphrodite, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like then the second arc, you go to Hades and you're fighting through that and dealing with all of that, and it's really cool. And I actually have not finished the third arc because I had to move on to play some other games this year because it's massive.
It's really big. I mean, in the Assassin's Creed 2 days,
Yeah.
this Fate of Atlantis would have been Brotherhood. I mean,
it's that
really?
big.
It's really big.
It's
That
probably
is
the size of
bold.
like an old school
Yeah,
Assassin's Creed game.
It totally is, and it's totally new zones, like new areas you're exploring. It's a really big experience. It's different from that only insofar as they are very distinct 3 separate places.
Yeah.
Like think about it as like 3 mini Assassin's Creed games, but taken in total, they do tell a connected story. And perhaps more importantly, for a long time Assassin's Creed people, it's by describing it as being you're taking on these Greek gods or whatever, we're missing out on the point of like it really is delving really deep into some of the stuff connected to that fiction that people have been wondering about forever, about like the first civilization and all that kind of stuff. It's like all about that in a very meaningful way and providing some answers there, I would
Stuff
say.
that people have been wanting
So
to
Adam
learn
and Eve
more
run
about.
through with the apple.
I mean, it's not exactly that, but it is alluding to like a lot of that aspect of the fiction.
Gotcha.
And
People have been wanting that since Desmond's arc.
yeah, and so you have these really over the top moments and these kind of fantasy landscapes,
Very much so.
that are still without spoiling how they do this, it's actually in fiction. Like they're not breaking their own rules to do it.
It's like a simulation.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you think about the idea that like humanity develops this technology that's the Animus, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about that for years and years in the Assassin's Creed. Well, suffice to say, the first civilization had some simulation technology as well.
What? I mean, who didn't?
Right?
Yeah.
So that allows for part of the story to kind of like go into some fantastical
Locations,
realms,
yeah.
but without totally breaking what they're talking about, and still lets you move forward with both the modern day storyline and the storyline of your Cassandra / guy I didn't play.
Alexios.
Yeah, the guy I did not play.
I didn't play.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting Greek name.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
So,
Never heard.
But I'm totally with you. It's rare that I would cite a DLC as being a standout entry of the year. But we were talking in the other segment about like Ubisoft's done some good job supporting stuff, and in the case of Assassin's Creed, even if they've done other games and supported multiplayer and rebalancing and all that kind of stuff, in single player games like Assassin's Creed, I think they did a really good job this year of like, let's keep this thing moving and do something interesting.
Well,
Yeah,
It's actually kind of cool because we didn't get an Assassins this year.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there is a full new game.
you
if
kind of
want it.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's still Assassin's Creed Odyssey. All your progress carries forward. Your character from the main game is in this with all of like the perks and everything that
Is
you
it
unlock.
level gated in any way, or can you just jump in as level
I think there's
one?
actually an option to have it go to whatever level you're at, but also I don't know how far in the story you have to be in order to access this, because I think it is technically post-game stuff.
Yeah, there is an implication that it's sort of following up on some of the story threads that are established in Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
Odyssey's main story, among other things, opens the door on this big aspect of the first civilization mystery connecting to Atlantis and
One
that
of
kind
the many
thing.
endings, because there's
Yeah.
like an ending,
Yep.
and then there's another mission, and then there's another mission after that, where it's like, I think I put probably 25 hours post-game to get to that final ending.
Yeah, but it's real cool. I suspect there are a lot of people who count themselves as Assassin's Creed fans who they just didn't even like. Oh, it's just some dumb DLC thing, but it's solid and a big chunk of stuff to explore.
And even for games that I adore, it takes a lot for me to go back to a DLC. Like a game, like I beat the game, 3 weeks after it releases. All right, that's good. I don't have to play that game again until I replay it like 6 years down the road or whatever. But like this, the way Joe described it, he was the one who wrote the impressions for us. He really sold me on it, and I'm glad I went back to it.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I think, time well spent, even if I didn't make it all the way through. I'd like to.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really, I mean, that's,
Man.
and it's often, it's one of those things, this Assassin's Creed in particular, I've just heard so much about, so much talk about it. Really, really amazing that after all this time that they're changing people's minds.
Yeah, I mean,
really
2 and
make a
Brotherhood
difference.
were far and away my favorite Assassin's Creed, but I think Odyssey has taken that title now.
Our Game of the Year awards just got really messy. These first two entries.
Yeah,
like,
those are weird. Yeah.
But I mean, it's tough. I mean, I saw someone the other day on Twitter. They were like, they said one of my games of the year is Return to Obra Dinn. And it was like,
it came to consoles this year.
because it was on something I could play. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And it's always one of those things that's so hard. You're like, yeah, I guess it did reach just a whole bunch of new people,
Yeah.
and that's an amazing game
Yeah.
and like stuff. But those are definitely the things that we have to
like
kind of.
your game
look
has a
at.
better shot than mine does.
Yeah,
I
DLC,
really do think so.
Yeah, DLC can definitely make it. There's no doubt. Like games that have a release date that's solid from a previous year. Those are tough. Those
I
are
know.
tough. But
I
that's
know.
not.
But-
But goodies, that's not what this conversation is about. This
Exactly.
is
That's why I
about
wanted to
great
bring it
games.
up, because I don't think you're ever going to hear about it in our top 50.
No, that's a great addition on in both cases. And this is like I said, I like learning all this stuff and hearing these stories. So, Matt Miller.
It's got to be a curveball, man. We just threw out 2.
I'm going to bring up one that I think we've talked about before on this podcast, and I've sung the praises of, but I suspect a lot of people have not yet tried Lonely Mountains Downhill. And I think it's one of the best indie games of the year. I think it's one of the best arcade games in a long time. And I really think more people should check it out. It's a mountain biking game that you are... You start at the top of the mountain. And you go down the mountain.
Is it lonely?
It's lonely.
So lonely.
It's only you.
It's only
It's like
you.
farming together.
I cry every
Yeah.
time I play it.
It's Lonely Mountains.
But it's I think I've compared it frequently to a mix between Trials and Marble Madness, which is kind of a weird mashup. But I think for those people who've played it, it's pretty
I agree.
accurate.
I actually agree, yeah.
You've got that sort of isometric view where you're sort of downhill from the action, and you're controlling your biker as they navigate these paths down the mountain. You're both trying to keep your crashes to a minimum, but also go as quickly as possible. And so there's definitely a very high skill component to it for anybody who's attracted to sort of speed runs. This is a game that has a lot to offer. But I think the thing that I love the most about it, and what has kept me coming back to it after I spent many hours with it for both preview and review, but I still find myself going back to play more, is its aesthetics. It has all these great really tight controls and really interesting design of the paths that you can choose as you go down. But the whole thing is accompanied by this kind of natural ambient soundtrack. You're hearing the bird calls and the wind blowing through the trees, and it's very at odds with what we most commonly see from
Extreme sports
yes,
kind of thing. Yeah.
Right, where
Yeah.
it's nothing against some awesome rock music, but that's what it often ends up being in that kind of thing. And I think that would have been the easier choice here.
Well, would
for
it
the
have to have been
developers.
Rockin' Mountain
Yeah,
downhill if they had done that?
Rockin'
That's the
Mountains
sequel.
downhill. But instead, the whole thing, there's this intensity of speed and precision, and you fail a lot, so you're kind of
Really
getting
do.
angry in some cases. But the anger is blunted because the whole thing is just so beautiful. There are these sort of vibrant, natural colors. You're always one of your collectibles that you're trying to find as you're going down the way is just nice places to rest and look out across the
Lonely Mountains.
The Lonely Mountains.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom, you're always coming your end point is always a cozy little campsite with your guitar sitting out next to the tent and just a nice little picnic table all set up.
It's got a biker vibe to
Yes,
it. Yeah.
it totally does.
Yeah.
And I find that very satisfying and a nice change of pace. There's a lot of gameplay there. There's lots of different mountains that you get to explore. I would be disappointed if people didn't have a chance. More people didn't take the chance on the game and give it a shot.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I see shortcuts and I want to do them, and I sit there and kind of laugh because you just sit there and you die over and over again.
Yeah.
And then the one time you make the one bounce and you're oh, I made it. Okay, let me see if I can do that again. Oh God, I can't do that
Yeah.
again. And it has that loop, and then it has that loop too where you there are checkpoints, so it kind of helps you out. It's hard. You don't have lives.
No.
Right. So you can just kind of keep doing it, and you definitely get to the point where you're going down, I got it, and it gets that Marble Madness moment where you just going a little too fast, close to that edge, and you go off, or you get a little too close to that tree or that rock, and the game's not oh, you clipped it, it's okay. It's
you're dead.
you're dead.
But
You're dead.
You're going over the handlebars.
It also
Yeah.
does just the thing. I always point to Burnout as being the first game that I really remember that did this super well. It makes failure fun.
Yeah.
Right? You go off the cliff and it's just kind of funny because, you got this guy who's having a nice little bike ride down the mountain and then he just tumbles off the cliff. And it's not gory or super bloody or anything
There's a
like
little
that. He just
pixelated blood.
Yeah, and you hear him kind of grunt as he slams
Yeah.
into the cliffside. But then it's just right back to it and you're kind of going down the mountain again.
Yeah, it has that Super Meat Boy
Yes.
type of quick restart, which I like.
Yeah, which is really great. And so you never feel like you get frustrated with some of the longer checkpoints, but I think it's such the skill-based play is so fun that you probably don't mind too much.
Yeah, there was a moment where I was playing it the other day, and Joe, who loves watching you fail,
Yeah.
strolled over to see what Lonely Mountains Downhill was all about. and he came around the corner just to see me clear this death-defying jump and then ride slowly into a pine tree and fail my run. So it's like I made this amazing leap that nobody would ever attempt in real life, and then I was taken out by
Bumped
a
into
pine tree, like slowly.
These things happen.
Yeah, those things do happen. It's a fun game. I'm with you on that. It's a really fun game. And it's just fun because it's arcadey and like it just kind of. I keep it on my computer because sometimes I'm just like I just don't want to deal with anything. I just want to do something fun, and it's a great addition.
For sure.
Is it? It's only on PC though now, right? Is it on?
It's on consoles.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yep.
I've just been playing it on PC.
Yeah.
All the consoles?
It's at least on Xbox.
And PlayStation. I can't remember off the top of my head if
think
it's
it's on
on Switch or
Switch.
not. Apologies.
There's a
That's
way
all right.
to find
That's
out.
all right. No.
Yeah.
And it's on Game Pass.
It is. That's how I'm playing it.
Oh, nice.
It is. Yeah, I did see it on
Nice.
Games Pass the other day when I was looking through the
Yeah.
current library.
Wow. It's a fun game. Fun game. Check it out. Especially if you got Game Pass. Then that's an easy one.
It says Switch TBD.
TBD. The
So
old
it-
TBD.
It's supposed to come, but at a later date.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like that. That feels like a game I would enjoy playing on a plane. Or
Yeah,
just
on your
like
Switch.
on,
Oh, absolutely.
Back
It'd be
of
a
a
good
car or something like that. I feel like it's got a good vibe. in
Speaking
that
of games
regard.
like that, I on Leo's recommendation last time I bought Streets of Rogue. We don't need to delve into it anymore. but
Wait. You going out of
I'm
order?
not going out of
man?
order. I'm just
What are
saying.
you doing?
I'm
He's
giving an
throwing it out there.
update. An update to the last time I was on. I've been playing the crap out of it on Xbox One, and I like it so much I bought it on Switch so I could play it on the plane.
Nice. Yeah, I downloaded that. I also checked out Card of Darkness that Leo brought up last week, and I've been checking them out. I'm still reserving
That's a
judgment.
good one on Apple Arcade, right?
I will be
Yeah.
doing
Yeah,
that.
I played some of that too. It's good.
It's okay. Well, I mean, that's once again, that is the point of this thing: is to hear stories about games and the way the experiences people had with them, and go, I should check that out. Right?
That is
And,
in my top 10 games of the year now.
So I think you are executing the plan.
The old
That's good.
update.
And you two were playing co-op last night
We were.
at the end of the night.
We
Yeah,
have
I've
a
been playing at the
blast.
office. It's been very, very fun. Yeah,
Aw.
we had
Yeah.
a lot of success yesterday. We were the
The whole time, Leo was like, "Oh, this is not going to go well. It's fine. This isn't gonna. We're not going to win this
Was he
time."
judging you or the game?
No, our loadout.
Oh, okay.
It's what I was a jock and you were a shapeshifter.
yeah unconventional combo. But
And-
it was a good. We had a big range of problem solving abilities.
We really did, and we
Jock
made
and
it
the
further than
shapeshifter?
I've ever
Yeah.
made it.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a lot of new characters, achievements.
Yeah,
Excellent work, you two. Excellent.
thank you.
it's the first time we've ever talked outside of the podcast.
Didn't care for it.
Yeah, I liked it.
It happens. It happens.
Leo, you have also been on the panel before, but do you have anything you'd like to add this week?
Yeah, got a little game to shout out called Nowhere Profit.
Nowhere Profit. You're just full of like I have no idea what you're talking about. So tell me about this game.
Yeah, it's a game I've tried to champion this year. It's a card game. The twist it brings to the card game formula is that it's all your cards can die. They're characters with names. You can rename them if you want to. You can name them after your friends.
Do you
But they
cry when they die?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
You can have them
Always.
permanently die and be removed from your deck, and you're kind of going along this roguelite generated journey trying to make your way through these worlds. And there's very interesting characters. All the fights are really fun, and there's lots of story decisions of like this character is going into this cave and you need to decide if they live or die. and
It's
that
like
kind
a
of stuff.
card-based RPG.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
So it's on what platforms?
I've played it on PC.
Okay.
I think that's all it's on right now at the moment.
Gotcha. So I mean, when you say it's an RPG, is there like an environment that you're moving through, or is it purely like a board that you're placing cards on and getting choices?
There's an environment. It's more like, a world where you're going from node to node, and then when you get in a fight, you go into this kind of battle arena where each side is placing down cards.
Oh, okay, like the kind of story modes from like fighting games where you'd go from like city to city kind of thing.
Sure, with a little more interaction throughout, and like little choices pop up, little paragraphs of story.
Can you give us an
pop up.
example of one of your choices, one of the hard choices you've made about your cards?
There's lots of hard choices of like you'll come to a camp with a certain type of enemy, and you'll either be able to attack them outright. You can try to talk to them first. You can hack these robots they have under their care so that you have an advantage when the fight starts.
Wow.
And those kinds of choices.
Yeah, what's the setting, by the way? Like, you just said robots, and now my mind's going to a different place.
Yeah, it's post-apocalyptic.
Okay.
I was thinking fantasy when you were describing it.
I was too,
Oh,
by
sure.
the name.
I think
yeah.
it's because that's many card games.
Sure. It's post-apocalyptic. Lots of mutants, lots of robots. Yeah,
Like you do.
yeah, very spiritual.
Any developer we know?
No.
There is no
It was
developer.
published by
Literally, no one made Nowhere Profit.
No More Robots, I believe, is the publisher who did Hypnospace Outlaw also this year.
Oh.
So that's why I was intrigued in the
Your
first
pick
place.
for publisher of the year, I guess.
That's right.
And then
Wow.
if no one made it, I was like, they don't want profit either. They want no profit. No,
No more profit.
It's in the
yeah,
title.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
It's with an F.
interesting. I'll have to look into that one as well. I noticed from your thing, you like the cards.
I do. I think a lot of developers have been doing interesting things with them lately. It's a good time to be into that type of game.
What's your favorite card-based game ever?
Ever.
Ooh.
Ever?
Wow. I probably put the most time into Hearthstone.
Okay,
But I think
yeah.
it's hard to top Slay the Spire. That's the one I'll probably go back to more
Yeah.
throughout my life.
It's a good game.
Yeah, that game's great.
Yeah, that was Dan Tack brought that up first thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On
That's
our
gotta be
first
a lock.
episode
Yeah.
of
A lock.
this. For people who haven't heard that one, make sure you check it out. All right, Andy Reiner,
All right.
do you have anything else?
Set
Or
the
you're not-
stage
Wait a second,
for us.
you haven't played any more games this year, right? You're all
That
done.
was
You're all
it.
tapped. Nothing left.
Well, Shenmue, I spent most of the year on that. It felt like. Holy hell. Developer, no code. Publisher, Devolver. 9 out of 10 rating from Game Informer.
Tell
Any
me
guesses?
more.
I know.
Shut up, Brian. You just looked at my screen.
Well, I mean, I this is me asking you. This isn't you asking me.
Yeah. Observation.
Oh yeah. I played Observation. Yeah.
It is such a different experience. It's a horror game set on a space station. There's a character named Emma who you get to know very well, but you don't play as her. You actually play as the space station's AI named Sam. It's an acronym for something I don't remember. But weird things start happening, alien type of things start happening on this space station, and you're trying to keep her alive, basically, by going through various things, going through AI protocols, all that stuff. It's fascinating and different. And where it goes, very satisfying. Like, as a sci-fi fan, like, I felt like it really kind of lived up to just being something I wouldn't expect. Like, you start getting things in your head, like, I think it's going to go this way, and it totally... We talk about curveballs, it goes somewhere else, right? Like, and I really appreciated it from start to finish.
Yeah, it has that weird sense at the beginning, and you can argue this with me, Reiner, a little bit, but I felt like I was kind of like, I was Hal, and she was Dave from 2001.
But you were not a bad Hal.
The thing is, I think that's interesting about the
don't
game.
know.
You don't know. Like, when you start off, it has you doing things and things happening on this, on the spacecraft, or not spacecraft, space station, that you're like, and then you have to like do protocols because you're a computer,
Sure.
right? You're an AI. So like when they're like, I need you to lock that down, you go through the procedure of locking that down or doing that thing, and you're like, I'm not sure if that was good or bad that I did that. So it's a really interesting way to make you play and think about what you're doing, and it has moments that are crazier than 2001 kind of thing, and you're like, whoa, where are we? What's going on? And like, why? It's definitely playing with your mind and a lot of elements, and it looks great, by the way. And like a lot of the kind of play elements are simple in their design, but they are very engaging as a gameplay.
And just to put it into perspective, when you're playing as an AI, you're like stationary, right? Like you aren't a being in this world, so you are seeing Emma through different camera perspectives, and you're switching to different cameras and rooms on this space station. You eventually do get kind of a Portal-esque ball with the eye on it that you get to fly around in zero G to kind of assist at times, and actually have kind of physical traversal at points, but that's limited. So you're mostly kind of a voyeur, which is interesting, and they make you think like an AI. That's something I haven't had in a game before, where you really do start kind of, like Andy said, second guessing certain things, but you're not supposed to, because you're just, open this door. I have to. Like you kind of get into those motions of like, the command was entered, I need to do this right now. But things start going awry, and you'll scan her body, and it'll be like not a match with what the computer says. So you're like, what's happening. Like, who is this? What's happening with her? And then there's alien stuff going on. So your mind's constantly racing with this story. And like I said, I think it delivers. I agree with J.V. Gwaltney's review, which was 9 out of 10. Fantastic game.
Yeah, I think that's a great choice.
PS4, PC, I think.
Yeah.
Really, it's on PS4. I
Yeah.
didn't know if that would work without mouse keyboard.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, I
awesome.
think it's not super. I mean, it's not super. The hardest like gameplay thing, as Reiner said, is when you once you get the kind of orb to move around the space, because there is that kind of spatial thing of you're in space, so there's no gravity. So sometimes you're like, this door is I don't I mean you're like because it wants you to know the space station. You know what I mean? So like this section 4 door 3 or whatever, and so you're kind of like have to look and kind of solve a little bit in the world to
puzzles.
go like, oh, this is 11. This is the section I'm going to. Here's how I kind of move around. So there's some of that. It's maybe the hardest like control stuff, but it's not that complicated.
Really well executed. Great atmosphere. Like the little things of moving around as that orb of these, as you accelerate forward, you'll get that puff of air, that little jet noise. It's very, very immersive. It's easy to turn the lights off and just get sucked in for a few hours.
It really is. It is a beautiful game and very well done. And it's just fun. It's a really interesting game just because, to Reiner's point and your point, it's just you haven't done anything like that. You know, I mean, there's just not a lot of games where you come at it from that kind of approach, and that makes it incredibly clever and definitely one that that is. If you haven't played it, you really should. It's definitely, I think, one of the games that's certainly defining a bit this year.
It might be on Xbox too. I'm trying to look that up right now, but
Is it going to make your top 10? You think?
a good shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of look at the experiences that really stand out as distinct.
Yeah.
And that's one that's right there. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of games I just really enjoyed that are sequels that are doing the same thing. But this one, when I do my top 10, I usually kind of look at those games that are different.
My prediction, by the way, this year is that editor top 10s are going to be really interesting this year. I think they'll be
very
varied.
Yeah.
There have been years in the past where it's like, okay, well, everybody has this game somewhere between 1 and 4.
Yeah, the top 3 are going to be Spider-Man, Red Dead, and God of War.
In
some order.
Everything's kind of on lock, except for I guess there were different number 10s for everybody. Whereas, I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think there's going to be a really broad variance. We'll see.
Yeah. I think that I would agree with that. So, Brian.
All right. Publisher, the Pokemon Company, and
God,
Nintendo.
Are we really going to do this?
I was trying to be cute. Come on.
Yours is dumb.
Mine's so obvious.
Yeah.
So
Final Fantasy.
Pokemon Sword and Shield. A game that I think that I had pretty high expectations going into it, just because I'm such a fan of the series. But there was a lot of controversy surrounding it before it launched, and then when it came out, I think it was a very good game.
I think, but there's been people post-launch too that have had some mixed feelings, right?
Yeah, I think that it's.
Which isn't, by the way, to say that it isn't a good game. I just mean I
think people are still upset about the lack of certain Pokemon being in the game. I think there's people who are upset about some of the performance in the wild area.
Okay.
But overall, I really like the game. I think that it's a great first all new Pokemon game on consoles. Because we had Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee last year, but that was essentially a remake of Pokemon Yellow.
Yeah.
But this is the first time they've gone all new on a console, and I think overall they nailed it. I think that the cities are great to explore. I wish that I think the post game is awesome. I wish that it was a little bit longer, and I think the wild area is really cool to explore as well.
Yeah, I think sentiment was definitely real negative going in. I feel like it has swung. I think you're right. It's not 100% gone positive on the whole experience, but I mean, it sold 6 million or something like that. It went crazy, and I think sounds to me like most fans are very happy. You know what I mean? It's not perfect, right?
Yeah, it very much held on to the Pokemon formula with only slight changes here or there. I really like the way they made it so it felt like the story was about a kid going into this sports culture, becoming a superstar, instead of just oh yeah, you're that trainer, aren't you? It's oh my God, you're that guy who beat all those trainers and you're a gym challenger. That's really awesome. Like
They made it into an esports story.
yeah, exactly. So I actually think that was it Kotaku or Polygon or somebody did an article about like how it's almost like a story about rising through the ranks of esports.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did a good job of capturing that British sports culture, and like everything kind of revolves around this gym challenge.
Oh, cool.
And then it ends with a tournament, which is
So we
cool.
had you on this show to talk about the game before it launched, and there was all kinds of rules about stuff you couldn't talk about. Not that we want to get into spoiler territory, but a lot of things you couldn't talk about. Could you tell me one thing that you couldn't talk about before that like really was a standout thing that makes the game important and like one of your favorite games of the year?
I think that the way that I couldn't talk about the post game at all, but the way that the tournament, I don't think I could talk about the tournament. Like I mentioned, instead of a traditional Elite Four, there's like a tournament where you have to like you go through all, and it might be a little spoilery, but you battle several trainers in rapid succession without saying who it is.
Yeah, okay.
Several trainers in rapid succession, and then there's like, all right, now there's the tournament of like to see who gets to face the reigning champion of the last year's gym challenge. And I don't know, I just like that structure better than like the traditional Elite Four. Like, all right, here you go from this to this to this, and like you're gonna fight this. I mean, I know you're fighting the same
Same number of
Like
fights.
they framed
number of-
the drama
yeah,
better.
they framed it better. The presentation is so much better in that. Like it actually feels like a sports tournament taking place, which I think is something that's cool because that's how I pictured it in my head when I was playing on like Game Boy Color, when I was playing like Red and Blue and Gold and Silver. It's like, oh, I bet there's a crowd watching this and cheering every time a move hits. And
And this is one of your favorite moments in the game.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that just the gym battles in general really stand out in that they feel like how I pictured it in the game, and like they make it so like the TV presentation is there, so it's like there's a camera swinging around, and like sometimes there's like an overlay of like
Yeah.
almost like a sports
Sports center.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
a sports like broadcast
Center.
Yeah.
What do you?
Well, that's something else.
yeah,
Pokemon
weird.
Center
Yeah,
or something else.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a
But yeah,
joke. It's a bad
I
one.
think it's really fun. I like taking part in the raid battles, and I like exploring the wild area and seeing like, oh, it's raining over here, so let's see if I can find some cool water Pokemon over here, or let me go ride my bike through the water and see.
That's great. Well, there you have it, folks. We finally got you that deep dive into a game you've never heard of. That Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Nobody's played it yet.
Yeah,
Little
yeah,
game.
Yeah, little game. Check it out. Mr. Miller.
Well, I think it's safe
about
to
that time?
Yeah, it's about that time. I mean, it's a testament to the quality of Bungie's work that Shadowkeep continues to be
We're putting Reiner to sleep.
as good as it is, right?
It's gonna be a long talker, everyone.
No, we're gonna do this quick.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Keep it relative.
These guys know that when Andy and I get going on talking Destiny, it can sometimes be
Long.
We've
get
done
lost
that
in the weeds
in the halls.
It's gonna
of
happen.
Game Informer, yes.
But I will say that I think that they've done a really good job of setting the franchise up to move into the future with Shadowkeep. Shadowkeep by itself, what it offers in terms of storytelling and missions and stuff like that, I think it's fair to say there's mixed opinions about that. I have some mixed opinions about some of the content in there as well.
it's good, but not great.
Good, but not great.
But fun. If you
yeah.
like Destiny, it is fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And but I think on a more important level, I think that they have made big strides in moving the game more towards the MMO they claim they now want it to be, and that they're really embracing that label. The new armor stuff gives people a little bit more flexibility to shape their build, which I think is important for kind of a long, ongoing investment style game like this. And there are a lot of things that you can sort of pour time into. There's a lot of different activities you can do and feel like you're making progress. So I think that they are. I mean, there's always going to be things that I can nitpick about with that game because I play it as much, because my friends play it as much as we do. Anything you play that much, you're going to start finding some kinks in the armor. But I do think that it's in a really solid place to be able to move forward. And I'm eager to see how they're going to capitalize on that. And on a broader level, I think that they are at long last moving the core narrative forward, which is not something that I think they've done a great job with in the last couple of years. While there have been some interesting storytelling moments, this feels like the first time that we're really circling back to where the franchise started, of like, there was a traveler and there was the darkness and there was a collapse and that kind of stuff. Shadowkeep is the first time in a long time that we're really circling back to that in a meaningful way and starting the snowball rolling to what will inevitably be somewhere here in the next few years, some answers to some of that stuff.
And I think it's the thing that this game has done is like just in that spirit of like introducing people to something that already existed, bringing it to Steam, and getting it in front of a whole bunch of people on PC. I mean, PC was last place as far as the platform I think that was most played for Destiny, and now I think it might be the biggest platform.
Oh,
that people are playing on.
Well, and you've got the new light thing, the free to play option, so that like I think there's a lot of new players who are able to come in and experience a lot of content without paying. And if you get into it, admittedly, you would want to pay for the actual campaigns and some of those other special things that you can't get without paying. But I think it's a really robust free offering for people. The move to Steam is a big deal.
And that's the other thing, too. That's also the kind of like just quality of life things like the cross-save, just all those things have helped move this game forward and make it more accessible to a lot of people, which is its biggest thing. And that's the part I think I'm with you. I'll struggle with when I look at my own top 10. I'm like, I feel like this is going to make it. You know what I mean? But there's definitely a lot of great games this year that are going to kind of fight for it. But because they did so many new important things to the franchise going forward, that it made a big difference. And you said, I think one thing I just want to make sure we mentioned, that this was the most amazing looking raid out of all of them.
I think it's a really beautiful raid space. Yeah, you're going back, for people who can remember, to the Black Garden kind of vibe from
the Vex,
from the original game. But
I know
kind
that.
of going to the next, like you almost sort of start at the place that ended, and then go deeper into the garden. And so it's a really beautiful play space. And man, I'll tell you, that raid team, they're kind of an almost independent development entity in some ways at Bungie, and they don't miss. I don't think I can't point to any one of the raids where I was like, yeah, that wasn't any good. They always come up with really interesting mechanics, boss fights, traversal challenges, and some of those discrete pieces of content. Things, they're done. They added a new dungeon as well.
Yeah.
Those individual pieces of bespoke content are a really good reason to invest the time in Destiny so that you can experience some of that stuff.
Yeah, and I've really been enjoying Call of Duty this year, but I still think I love Destiny's PvP. I'm really a big fan of I don't know why. It's my favorite. I just really like it. I've been dying for it to become an esport, to tell you the truth, because I would like to be able to watch more competitive Destiny. Would be a thing that I'm interested in. Yeah. Maybe I'm alone, but I'm definitely interested in that. But hopefully that as Bungie's changing and growing, they're going to have that opportunity, because I'd watch it.
Yeah.
I'd watch it if you made it, Bungie. If you're out there, please. Well, we're going to do one more from Leo. Do you have another card game for us, sir?
Only card games from you, Leo.
And it needs to be obscure. I want it to be a really, really obscure card game.
Okay.
And that didn't really mean
I'll make one right now. That way no one's ever heard of it. I want to shout out Ape Out.
Oh,
yeah, Ape Out.
Somebody said that was their game of the year.
That's
Weird.
a cool choice. Yeah.
Yeah, Ape Out. It plays a little like Hotline Miami. It's a top-down ape game. You push people and you grab them and throw them is pretty much your only
That classic
interactions.
genre, the top-down ape game.
If you've played an ape game, you're familiar with this.
I played Streets of Rogue.
You can play as an ape in that. That's true. Two great ape games. But Ape Out is very super stylish, and there is a constant little jazz drum backdrop that's playing, and you smashing people into walls will synchronize with crashes of cymbals and big drum hits. And it's an incredible piece of art. It should be in the MoMA. It's beautiful and it plays amazing.
We laugh, but I don't know that I disagree. Like I found that game to be emotionally resonant in a very unusual way.
Truly.
Like the idea that you're the degree to which that jazz soundtrack gets you into the mindset of this poor animal that's just gotten screwed over, and he's going to get the hell out of there. And you are that ape.
He's got to get the ape out. Yeah.
He's got to get the ape out. Yeah. And like the way that soundtrack and the way that it kind of almost sort of matches this animal's heartbeat and his emotional state and his mental state as you're moving through the space is really, really cool. And the more you allow yourself to just get immersed in that, the more engaged I think you can be with the game.
Impressive variety.
Yeah.
You know, the drums that are hitting are different on each world. There's 4 worlds, and sometimes it's more industrial, and you're hearing like pipes clanging, and then you're out after 2 hours, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just like
That's
an incredible way to spend an evening.
That's one thing I wish we would cover more, is just games that are shorter that you can beat in between the big ones, right?
Yeah.
You know, like I
Yeah.
think this is a perfect one just to kind of slide in between those big experiences that you play.
And there are more challenging modes to go back to when you want to play more, which is great.
Perhaps I will check it out, Leo.
You should.
Yeah.
Never led me wrong before.
The amazing ending, like chills, really good, really worthwhile.
Yeah, I always found that a really I hate the question, how long was that game? Because it both means nothing.
Yeah.
But I feel at the same time, too, people are looking for something that fits in a schedule.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm saying.
And that's where it has meaning.
Yeah.
But I also kind of I hate how it sounds dismissive or like, oh, it's only 2 hours or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
like sometimes it can be like, it's 2 hours of awesome. You know?
Yeah.
And
I love that. I call them wedge games. You know what I mean? Like I hear it's great. I could finish it and just move on to the next one.
Sure. When I say only 2 hours about Ape Out, that's because that's me saying you have no excuse not to go play.
That's great. I mean, I think that's an important message, and I definitely I think I'm going to leave this episode with Ape Out being on my quick list to hit this weekend,
Yeah,
especially
same.
because it's going to be Thanksgiving weekend. There'll be some free time, and
Maybe you're hanging out with some people who've got some opinions,
Yeah,
and
you're gonna
Ape
be
Out
like-
would be a good way to
yeah, be like.
release that tension.
You know, or be like, hey, I've got a little like post eating turkey tryptophan. Like, I don't want to deal with anybody. I'm gonna
Zone
go
out.
Ape Out.
Yeah, Ape Out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for coming on. We will.
Oh, that's it.
We've got
Queued up another. Okay.
Yeah, good. Because you will be welcome back. This is not.
Aw.
Thanks,
man.
This is only part 3. I want this to go through the end of the year. I think we have a lot more games to discuss.
A lot of games.
I'm trying to keep the podcast time down, though I'm failing at.
What
it.
are we at, like
No,
4 hours
don't
today?
even look. But I appreciate you all coming on. It's great to talk about these games. It's always interesting. Hopefully everyone listening is enjoying it as well. And we're helping you find games, which is always so important to me here at Game Informer and all the Game Informer team, is to help you find games that you love. So I think talking to people and talking about the games that they love hopefully will inspire you to find something great, which is really what it's all about. So thank you all for this. We got one more segment coming up with Justin Leeper, who did performance capture for Death Stranding and kind of his experience of working with Kojima. And I think that'll be really interesting. I know I'm kind of dying to hear. Like
He worked with him a lot. Not to spoil anything,
Yeah,
but
this isn't like a little.
that's a good build-up,
bit
right?
thing.
Yeah, I
You're
think
going
it's
to
a
want to
good-
tune in for this.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and he's definitely, you know, Kojima, whether you like him or you don't, or you love him. You know, I think there's different kind of schedule, you know, like different spectrums for him. He's an artist. And I think that's why people like him or hate him or whatever. You know what I mean? Like why they have those
He's
kind of things.
certainly going for it.
He elicits a reaction.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it'll be interesting to hear him when he is actually working and hear someone who was present when he was working, because you know we don't hang out, Kojima and I, and kind of go through those things. And
Not yet.
Not yet. But I
He'll
would
be in Death Stranding too.
I would love to hear more about his creative process and how he does things. So hopefully you will too, and you'll stick around and join us. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next segment. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm Andy McNamara, your host, and today I am joined by an ex-Game Informer team member, Justin Leeper, who has gone on to do crazy things. And in particular, what we're going to talk about some today is that you've worked on Death Stranding, among a lot of other things. But welcome, Justin. How you doing?
Thanks, Andy. It's great to see you. Yeah, I guess I'm quite a blast from the past here. I often, lament that I was on staff before kind of the social media boom. So maybe not a lot of people remember me. Some that do, I give them, bonus points in my heart. But yeah, man, I've still followed the magazine in all these many years, and talked to you and Reiner and other guys every once in a while. So it's cool to be sort of collaborating on something right now.
Well, we're also always like, for me personally, I'm always super proud when anyone that we were lucky enough to work with goes on to do great things. And certainly too, like not only social media, but like doing video and all those kind of things that you, as that you were actually was an expertise for you, and you went on to do in other areas, which is kind of cool. So
yeah, I mean, before I joined staff, and I will always, and I've talked to you about this recently, but I will always credit you for taking a chance on a kid, with not a lot of experience. And, kind of Game Informer was really a jumping off point for me in games and writing and in so many different things that, if I hadn't had that opportunity, who knows what the factory I'd be working at.
Oh, you're a smart guy. I think you would have tore it up. But I think that's the funny thing. I do want to go on this just so everybody knows. Where were you when we hired you to come on to Game Informer? What were you doing? I think is an interesting story.
Yeah, the crazy thing was when I originally applied, I think I was living in Key West, Florida. And I was this poor, lonely kid living in my stepdad's old trailer in Key West, Florida, working at a hotel front desk. And then, but over time, while, you guys were going through your process, I ended up living in Richmond, Virginia, and I was doing slave labor for Gwar, both, figuratively and literally.
Yes.
And Gwar was my favorite band. And by the time, I was with Gwar and I was making no money, but I was so happy. But you came with the offer, and I thought, man, do I leave this? What do I do? And those guys are like, dude, we're not doing anything. We'll be around. Go and get that gig. So yeah, I ended up coming up from Richmond, Virginia, in my crummy car with all my meager possessions, and drove up to Minnesota with no place to live at first. And I crashed in Paul Anderson's guest room for a couple days, where I was too shy to ask him where, for a towel, so I didn't shower those first couple days.
It's so funny, and it's just so crazy. Eventually, we had the Gwar guys come and visit us here at the office once, and they were so nice, bunch of really great people, and obviously, very sad what's gone on since then. But
yeah, with Dave, that was crazy because his last shows were here in Japan, and I came out to Japan when I was living in LA to help them out, to kind of be a liaison. And then so I was at Dave's last show, hung out with him, and then they hired me on to tour with them, the first tour without Dave.
Wow, that's crazy.
And Dave Isidorus Urungus, the lead singer of Gwar, who was just an amazing man, amazing character. And I even used him when I was making video games for voiceover.
Yeah, so tell us some about your career. You worked on WWE SmackDown versus Raw, right, for a number of years?
Mm-hmm.
And
I was the Road to WrestleMania designer, writer, director for WWE SmackDown versus Raw, 2009, 2010, 2011. So those are 10 years now. And that was a really great experience. Because while I was at Game Informer, I was also learning how to be a pro wrestler.
Of course you were.
Training there. And so I could kind of combine my game knowledge and my wrestling knowledge and my writing love to make stories for the WWE games, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I know you were friends with some other wrestlers that went on to do some other things, but you were a big part of the local scene here and did a lot of matches, which was crazy. You definitely kind of cut your skills as far as acting goes, right? Would you say that? Did you say wrestling helped you kind of where you are now?
Performance, when you're in front of 300 people in a unitard trying to act tough, that really, that removes your fear of performing. I don't get butterflies when I go record a DVD about being an English teacher or something, so that really, really helped get my performance chops up there. And fight choreography and acting are very similar in that when you learn the basics, then you can kind of play with it and make it your own. And, some of the guys that I met in Minnesota went on to do some big things, and I brought some of them back for the motion capture that I was directing for the WWE games. And so it kind of came full circle that way.
That's awesome. So tell me a little about you. So you've been doing performance and acting throughout Tokyo for a while now. How long have you been doing that?
Yeah, so I originally came to Japan in March of 2016, and that's when I had auditioned for Universal Studios Japan. So they hire their foreign cast out. They do like this world tour that they go to LA, they go to Australia, they go to London, and they audition people to do Terminator, to do all the Harry Potter stuff that they have here. And I originally went into audition for Terminator. I thought, well, I kind of got the jawline. I kind of look like it a little
Yeah.
bit. And I went in there, and the audition didn't go great. But afterwards, I said, "Arigato gozaimashita." And they said, "Oh, you speak Japanese?" I said, "Yeah, a little bit." They said, "Okay, read this Harry Potter script." And I didn't bother with it before because it was looking for like old wizard guys, and I'm not an old wizard guy. But I read that stuff, and they ended up hiring me on. So for my first year here, I was living rent free in a giant apartment complex full of other gaijin and working at Universal Studios. And I was a wand keeper at Ollivander's.
That's awesome.
So I would have this 5-minute one-man show where I would, take 30 guests and I would pick you and try this wand, and half it was in Japanese. And I would do, I did maybe 4,200 shows in that year. And after the contract was up, they were like, "Yep, okay, you're going home." And I said, maybe I'm not going to go home because I have this entertainer visa and I want to go to Tokyo and be an actor. So I kind of did the steps it took to come out here, sign with some agencies, and it was kind of slow going at first, but it built up, and that's been my full-time job for the last 2.5 years.
So how do you get connected with Kojima Productions and Death Stranding?
So the audition came out. The main company that I work with is called Remix, and one of their agents was casting, kind of helping with the casting. So he sent me a thing like, "Oh, there's," and they use like acronyms. It was like a K video game or something. It was pretty vague. But I kind of figured out who it was, and I originally auditioned for Higgs. So that's a character that Troy Baker ended up playing and voicing. And I went in, and everybody auditioning was taller and younger than me. So I was like, okay, that's the type they're looking for. Oh, well. And we went to Kojima Productions' new studio, and I'm sure you've seen pictures of it and whatnot, with the big Luden statue and this crazy lit, 2001 Space Odyssey room. And so I'm sitting there waiting, and first guy auditions, he comes back, and people are like, "Oh, did you see Kojima?" And he was like, "I don't know if it was him or not." And I was like, "Okay, that guy's not getting it. He doesn't know anything." So I go next, and he's, Kojima-san sitting right there in the middle, and there were 3 or 4 other people. And, first when I was doing my Jiko Shokai, my introduction in Japanese, I was mentioning to Kojima-san what a fan I am. Not just Metal Gear, but, Zone of the Enders, which was the first game I reviewed for Game Informer magazine. Snatcher, which I loved. And I even told him the story about how when Kato and Reiner were reviewing Metal Gear Solid 2, they never spoiled the Raiden thing for us.
Which is crazy
and
when you look back now.
Yeah. So I did that stuff. I did the audition. Audition went well. I threw, like I always do, I throw in some pro wrestler stuntman bumps. Like I'll just do a flip and land on my back in the middle of, just randomly to kind of show people that I can do that. And the audition was over. On my way back, Ima Izumi-san, who's been Kojima's longtime producer, he's like, "You did a good job."
Oh, excellent.
So that made me feel really good. And on the train ride home, I get a phone call from my manager, and I can't answer it because I'm on the train. But when I get home, I talk to him, and he says, "Yeah, you got the part."
That's
so
awesome.
that was amazing. One of my dream jobs that I got so super easily, seemingly. But I actually went on to do almost all of Dead Man's performance too, and that's the Guillermo del Toro character.
So tell me some about so what's the experience like? So is it like a month-long schedule? Do you just go pack it all in one day? Like, how do you do this many characters? Because you also did some facial capture too for BB as well, right?
Yeah. So I think when I was making the WWE games, we were on a really tight developmental cycle. We had 11 months to make that game. So I would write all those scripts. They would get approved by WWE. I'd write the shooting scripts, cast them. We'd have about 3 weeks where we just bang out all the motion capture, bang out all the cutscenes. Kojima, on the other hand, has, it took him 4 years to make Death Stranding. So he's kind of writing on the fly a little bit. So we would do a rehearsal, and we would do maybe 2 days of motion capture, of performance capture. And we would do that almost every month for like a year.
Wow.
So my first scene I shot was in September of 2017, and my last one was in March of 2018. So I guess it was like a 7-month thing.
So tell me about that process. Is the audio already done? Are they playing the audio and you're like kind of performance to match what the scene is, or are you just getting directions from Kojima? This is what I want you to do.
Yeah, totally. So Kojima's there, and his director of photography is there setting up the angles. And but at that time, so when I was doing the Higgs stuff, Troy Baker had not been cast yet.
Oh wow.
So I didn't, I think they didn't know what the voice would sound like, because Troy plays it more over the top than I kind of expected. So like the scene where the I am Higgs, the particle of God that permeates all existence, that was me. The licking Fragile's face, that was me. I don't know how, I haven't played, I'm only 30 hours in the game, so I don't know how many scenes I didn't do with Higgs, but I did a lot of Higgs scenes. So we would set them up. We would be looking at the script. But when you're on set, especially we were doing performance capture, which captures facials also. So you have a camera right here, maybe 18 inches away, and there's a big light on it, and it's like it's in your face the whole time, and you have to get every word perfectly. So I'm doing these 7-page monologues, especially as Dead Man, where I had when I mess up a word, I see somebody on the side like writing it down, at the corner of my eye, but I have to keep going, and they want it to be one take. So you have to be perfect, and there's a little bit of pressure with that. So I'll tell you a real quick story. The first scene I was cast as Dead Man. So the other guy who was going to be Dead Man was a big dude, kind of fit the part a little bit more body wise, but he had problems with the lines. So as you know, playing Kojima games, there are lots and lots of lines of dialogue, and Dead Man had the most lines of dialogue. So they were like, Justin, this other guy's not working out. Can we toss a Dead Man scene on top of your Higgs stuff tomorrow? I was like, yeah, can I get the script? Sure. I get the script. It's 17 pages, and it's almost all me talking. And I have about 17 hours before my call time. So like I just have to sit home and just pound that stuff in my head with a ball peen hammer and make sure it gets in there. So I get on set, and then of course there's blocking. So I have the words down, but they're like, all right, around here you have to go over here and pretend that there's this BB pod, and you have to go over here and show Sam, something on the table. I'm like, wow, I gotta absorb all that stuff too. But I did okay. I think they needed to split it into 2 takes, which they don't do a lot, but almost all other motion capture people do. But then they were like, okay, from now on you're going to be Dead Man. So like the shower scene, which is pretty infamous. And I don't want to say too much, but I shot this shower scene, and that was really interesting because I had kind of not a fat suit, but like a cushion around me to give me that girth.
Yeah, the correct spatial kind of understanding.
Yeah, definitely because I would try to do like the fat guy walk and everything, but it needed the actual dimensions for sure.
Yeah. So, are you doing any of these scenes with other people? Are you doing this solo? Like, how does that work out?
Yeah, everybody who's in the scene is there. So there was a Tokyo motion capture unit, and that was me and about 6 other people. The only character that I don't think had somebody else doing a couple scenes was Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh, okay.
So I think he did everything himself. But so we had Eric Brown's a very talented actor who did a lot of older Metal Gear stuff. He was our Sam Bridges in Tokyo, and we had somebody doing Fragile, somebody doing Hartman, somebody doing Die Hardman. So we had all those people, and yeah, everybody was, we all had these big facial rigs on and acting with one another. We had a little pod, a little BB pod that we would carry around that we weren't, really sure what it would look like. It was kind of like a shoebox that they filed down.
That's interesting. So tell me some about, like, what's it like? What is Kojima as the auteur, like as a director? What was that like to work with him? What was kind of example of directions he gave you? What did you think of the experience?
Yeah, I came in and I was a huge Kojima fan, and I had also done my share of motion capture directing. So I directed all the cutscenes for the WWE video game. So I knew what went into that a little bit, and I had written those stories. So I was like a 1% of a Kojima as far as what I knew how to do. But getting on set with him, working with him, I mean, he was very hands-on. He gave lots of feedback, and he always had answers, which a good director must do. He had a great sense of humor. He was funny. I'm not fluent in Japanese, but we communicated well. And one thing that was really great was he would use our input. So if like Dead Man's final scene, I had an idea for it, and I went to Kojima-san and I said, "Hey, how about we do this?" And he was like, "All right, let's try it." And it looked good. And Dead Man's final scene is something that I sort of came up with.
That's awesome.
And that's such an honor that somebody with his skill level would go like, "All right, yeah, I like your idea."
I mean, we have video of you dressed up as Solid Snake. I mean, you're obviously a huge fan.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that was one of my first, opportunities of acting. And that's still on my YouTube page. And, you with that perfect chuck of the magazine where it went right underneath. Yeah, that was great.
So, I mean, you are definitely a well-known fan. So you were more than prepared for this role in particular. Yeah. You worked with other directors. I mean, did you say was it easy to tell that what his vision was? Did you just have to make a leap of faith and go I have no idea what's going on in this scene, but I'll follow direction and get through? How does that work out? Especially because there is so much story and there's a lot to kind of
right. Yeah, it's rough because every character, Hartman and Mama, they all have their huge twists or at least intricacies, and I didn't know all that stuff. So I'm working with these characters that I'm not that familiar with. Die Hard Man and I had a couple scenes. So that's, and you don't necessarily know where these scenes are fitting in the chronology of the game itself. So yeah, there's a lot of, me asking questions about motivation and direction and them being a little bit vague about it. So yeah, it was a little bit tough, and, I'm trying to figure stuff out. I knew some stuff, I didn't know all that much stuff.
Gotcha.
And there's so many questions in Death Stranding when you watch the trailers, or even when you've been playing it for a couple hours. And I just had to, like you said, leap of faith, and I played Dead Man a little bit like Otacon, because Otacon was Snake's. He looked up to Snake, but he was also pretty smart, but maybe a little bit socially stunted. And that's kind of how I played Dead Man a little bit, and what Otacon was to the Metal Gear. Dead Man sort of was to the BBs.
Yeah.
So that I played it a little bit like that. Higgs, I just played Higgs like a heel, and that seemed to work. There is a Higgs scene. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a Higgs delivery scene, and that's all I'll say about it. But that gave me a chance to have a little fun with that character, because I did that scene too.
That's awesome. So tell me about, how do you, a grown man, play a baby? Right? I mean, that's got to be an interesting challenge.
Yeah, that's probably the headline to that story is probably way cooler than the actual body of the article. But yes, I did the facial motions for BB. Now, what that means is, so before we shoot, they have us do body motions so they get our range of motion. And when we're doing facial capture, they have us look, that kind of thing, a range of motion for the face. And we would do that after we shot as well. We'd sit down and there'd be a monitor in front of us and we could kind of see ourselves, which looks terrible when you have a camera like that. But they said, okay, Justin, before you leave today, when you do your facial ROM, can we get you to do the range of emotions for BB? And I was like, well, yes. I don't plan on having kids, so that's kind of the closest thing I'll get. So they have me do the kind of, the giggling, the crying, the fussing. They have me go through a big range for BB. And the way I describe it is that we as facial capture actors, we are the muscles underneath the skin.
Gotcha.
So I am the muscles underneath the skin of Dead Man. I do not look anything like Guillermo del Toro. You may not even knowing me and watching that character, you may not see a lot of me in there, but I am providing the muscles. And the same thing with BB. I've looked and done a lot of stills and whatever, and I show my wife hey, does that look like me? No. What about this one? No. Okay. But it's still just awesome to know that, that those animations were used by the artist to help animate BB, because that character is amazing too. And, I'll sit there and I'll rock BB around for no reason, even when BB's stress is perfect, just to see those little bubbly shaped hearts come up.
That's so awesome. Well, I mean, that's such an amazing story, and just like I think, when you first mentioned it to me, I was like, wait, what? You really threw me off. I was completely unprepared for this to happen, but I think that's quite an amazing moment and quite an amazing journey, Justin. So congratulations. That's really, really, really awesome work.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice that I've had these stories that people who don't know me don't believe. Like, oh yeah, I toured with Guar. No, you didn't. Oh, I was a pro wrestler. No, you weren't. Oh, I made these WWE games. No, you didn't. Like, I did another game I did here. I did the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I did the motion capture for, like, I got to play Groot and Thanos and Captain America and Hulk and Beast and Odin. Like, that was super cool too, just getting to play those characters. So I'd love to do more mocap. Unfortunately, there's not as much in Japan as I'd kind of hoped there would be.
Well, now that you'll be an international star of mocap, right? They'll be flying you all over the globe. Yeah.
Let's hope. Let's hope so.
Let's hope. Well, thanks, Justin. I appreciate you taking the time today. It's a great story. Amazing. So thank you so much. And thanks, everybody, for watching the Game Informer show. We'll be back next week. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.